soon enough? Is that the?
I know.
30 seconds.
There you go.
Round the horseshoe.
And they just get one turn.
That's it.
Okay.
But basically all of them.
Looking down the portal station. Okay.
Fees.
Yeah, first thing, citizen general discussion, get 3 minutes.
Okay. No, that'd be great. And I've kind of got some these handed out. I don't know, do you think I ought to hand these out? Because I always felt like, when you're looking at them,
Yeah, we have copies of this
but
stuff.
do you have a budget?
Not with me.
East Coast trip.
Do you think it'd be able to hand it out?
I'll say those.
We're gonna be without you. Thank you so much.
I'll, pick out some of the biggest increases.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm looking for a little.
I told her rock, paper, scissors.
I love that she didn't answer.
Ready?
Hi, Cindy.
How are you?
You okay today?
Yes, sir. How are y'all doing? How's Lisa?
How you, Mark?
So much. Oh. Sir. Okay. Oh, we didn't have to do with any.
Well, so that's why we're the four meetings.
Okay.
And I'm just going to talk about those students that are being proposed in the budget.
Oh. Show us the very loud.
Just so happens. I got you. Yeah, we're gonna be pretty quick.
Well, two sisters in our family.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Halfway up city.
And, because our truckers were windy, we were riding, the tractor covers flat, and there was benches inside. But, really nice. Great. We had a family reunion. We just had our little mini reunion. I don't care.
That's one town I've been to a long time, so.
All that, my son, yeah, my sister and I, or
Can't be scared to go out there and do it. Can't be scared. Front page looks great. That front page is awfully amazing. The second page is all bad up. I can go through.
He just want to see what it looks like to be looking at
yeah.
It's wrong. We had a great time.
You can just make it during your remarks. Yeah.
Another year old. We don't bite you to 30. 30 is what we
We know, Mayor.
Hey,
You okay today?
I'm doing all right.
Making it? What you been up to? Anything exciting?
No, not really.
Just typical stuff, huh?
All right.
How are you today? You good? What I do now? Oh, last time I saw you?
Yes.
We just had a little
I
murder.
bet you wanted to drop kick me.
We just had a little murder trial going on. It wasn't no big deal. No, don't be embarrassed at all.
Yeah, you got the best. You got great. Never had the best sense of humor.
You gotta have some fun in life. If you can't have any fun, ain't no reason to do it. Hey, we'll just keep having fun every day. That's all I do. Yes, ma'am. Okay, a little common sense. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like it when you're negative votes.
Sure.
I don't even think that. I think that means somebody's thinking.
There's some easy ones we can all agree on, but a lot of them you gotta think. We know Mark. Nope, about 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Okay.
August 22nd. Well, I'll bring that baby by your house so you can just watch it for a couple hours. Yeah, I'll let you have all you want. That's where you're always at. I think you hide out there.
Button that says stick it in your ear.
Water those plants, do whatever you're doing.
I got it in audiology.
Water
I
those
know,
plants.
so everybody else, especially me, would be offended.
I bet you are.
Well, see, I would understand it.
I know you would. And you would laugh your little.
I would.
Kabuki off.
Hey, how are you, sir? Good. I'm all right.
Just don't throw anything at me. That's what?
Last
Oh, great.
This was my last one. I caught. Uh-oh, battery. I was fishing in the store. That
Yeah, he's.
The guy told me about 600 I said, what's he doing? He says, oh, he's looking for something to eat. I said, let's get the heck out of here. He said, oh, don't worry about him. We got to don't worry about him. He's already been looking for somebody bigger than you.
Russ,
Casey, how are you?
for you in a second. Love to have your support. Derek, how you doing? Good.
What we got here?
No, I'm good. No. Y'all doing all right?
Letter, taxi service, all
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Don't say make special, man. 4 for $99. Birthday boy.
right. Hey, President, well, you know,
Mayor, doing all right, sir?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's Casey,
Thank you, sir.
Dave South Hogan.
Hey, thanks for that picture. No, not engaged. I'm single already.
Oh, you're talking about the awards you got?
Yeah, I'm talking
Oh, I thought you had something more important than that. Like the girls.
That's the opposite. Engaged. I'm disengaged.
Uh-oh, really?
Robert's permit.
Casey.
Woodrow, I called you back today. I'm sorry it took me forever. Call me.
I said you can't get pregnant.
What's that? Unfortunately, it's not.
Hello. And I want to tell you something right quick.
Okay.
I counted up the other night. I've worked over 45 years
I do.
in my life.
I do.
That's all
How
I'm going
old?
to say.
Okay.
When you said, I'm
Congratulations on the analog meter. Finally, yeah. Praise the Lord. Finally.
I'll put the word
I
in.
believe was you would believe what I am measuring in my house.
Still there?
No.
No.
I
Low?
did my master electrician. I mean, the things that are, it was about to burn my house down somewhere. Because I had that terrible copper wiring, which is the best.
Conductor?
Yes. Known to man. People steal copper wiring.
Right, they do.
Freddie told me a little bit about that. I'm all
Well, Sherry, what have you been doing? Just working and that's it, huh?
Print out the budget, and then we
It's always fun to buy items like that. It's really want to spend all your
Would
money on.
please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. It's 5:30 here on Tuesday, August the 5th. I'll call this meeting to order of the Stephenville City Council, a regular business meeting tonight. And I'd like to welcome everybody here this early August. Thinking of October. What am I thinking of October about? So we've got a full agenda tonight and a lot of things to talk about and go over. And we're going to start this evening on a very impressive high note. If we've got, is Landon?
I don't see him
Here yet? Okay. Well, he's, we've started 2-a-days, and so it's understandable. All right. He comes in kind of wondering what's going on.
Who's he? Landon?
Come on in here.
Oh.
Landon? How you doing? Good. Good. Baby, you wanna come on in here? Everybody come on in. Come on in. Come on in, guy. How you doing? All right. You know why you're here, right?
They know. Okay.
Yes.
You're looking at a hero. What's a hero? It's somebody that makes a decision at the right time that makes a difference in someone's life. And in Landon Reeves' experience, he's one of our lifeguards down at Splashville. And he recently had an opportunity, if you want to call it that, an opportunity, to save a life of a 3-year-old toddler that had fallen into the water. And so that's what happened.
He is a little shy. He does not want to say that he's a hero because everybody at Splashville, all of the lifeguards work very hard. And we have what we call an EPA, the VAP, thank you. Emergency Action Plan.
Please, yes, so, try to let everybody hear.
I didn't know I
Thank you.
needed a mic.
You don't. Thank you.
Anyway, what happened is a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday, we had a family that had 2 twin 3-year-olds and like a 5-year-old. And if anybody's had a 3-year-old, you understand. And one of them come running at the pool, and he happened to stop this one. As he turned, there was another one that was in the water. Someone handed the child to him. He immediately started CPR. They gave him breaths. They actually, what they were doing is trying to revive him. They were successful in that. The EMTs showed up. They were able to, you know, at that time he was crying, and as Landon said, that was the best thing he had ever heard. He's one of these that we train hard, and we require our lifeguards to do training twice a month to keep all of their skills good, to keep them on their toes and ready. And we had the training the Saturday before. This happened on Sunday. Once he did the initial emergency whistle, he said his training just kicked in. And if anybody's ever been in a stressful situation, if you're trained, you don't think about it until it's over. And I think by the time it's all over, his knees were a little weak, and he was a little concerned, but he did a good job.
Brenda was talking, we were talking about 2-a-days starting, and how he was looking forward and enjoying that. And I think the soreness kicked in. Well, Landon, it's a privilege to stand here with you. I know that you're thinking this isn't a big deal, but I mean, to the parents of the kid, it's a big deal. Just speaks, I think, to your part as an individual that you don't want this to be a big deal about you because it's not about you. And I appreciate your perspective on that. But we as a community want to thank you for what you did. And so this is just a small one for us to do that. So let me do this and we'll get a picture here. Landon plays linebacker, inside and outside linebacker, and sounds like he's a lot more excited about that than lifeguarding. That's a good thing. Isn't that special? I tell you what, I don't know which is more special, the fact that he did such a heroic deed, or just his humbleness of what happened. So that's one of the great things about our community, and just appreciate everything that he did and represented by what the rec department does as well. Okay, I've got a couple of requests here. We'll move into the citizens' general discussion item on the agenda, and I've got two requests to speak during this time, one from Mr. Melvin Getz. All right, sir, if you'd just come forward to the podium with the microphone and provide your comments. And I think as you've been preparing for this, you've been told there's 3 minutes to present your information. So thanks for being here tonight, and just state your name and address for the record, and then go ahead.
Yes, I'm Melvin Getz, 620 County Road 454. What I assume you have in front of you, I will read it. To whom it may concern, Mayor, City Council, Chief of Police, and City Manager. As per my talk with the City Manager and Mayor, I was instructed to submit my application and then address all my concerns with the ordinance number 1986-26 dated January 1, 1987. Well, a lot has changed in this city in 35 years, and I hope to make this change and update as smooth as possible. I have had these ideas for 4 years, and like many others, saw that the work necessary to get a taxi service going again would take a lot of extra work. To bring the city and the public to what I feel is a transportation improvement in the city. The application, inspection, complaint, permit, and fees of this process has needed to be revised since 1987. No one caught this error in 30 years. Well, it took me a week to review the intent and the procedures necessary for the city and I to get this ordinance in a mutual lasting ordinance for me and future cab companies. My ideas I addressed, put in writing. If all of you receive copies, each and every item to be changed in the ordinance to bring it up to speed. I hope to go through and ask of you to review it and help me in expediting that process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, we'll certainly take this, and with the permit application, that'll go through the staff process, back through the committee to the council for decision. So thank you very much. Any other comments on that or questions for Mr. Getz from the council? Okay. All right, the next request I've got is from Ryan Gailey and Rick Hale.
So my name is Ryan Gailey, and I'm a builder here in Stephenville. I have a new project which I've applied for a permit for recently. The project consists of 6 separate buildings of the same floor plan. This building has the same plan, was approved by the city, and the same outsourcing company the city uses for review in 2012. In 2012, I constructed 3 of these same buildings and went through and paid for the review process. In 2013, I constructed 5 more of the same buildings without having to pay an additional review fee because there were no code changes that the city had adopted. We are still using the same building code today. However, I was told I had to go through the building review process again and was charged $1,726. That amount was for the evaluation of 6 buildings. There is only one building plan that would be reviewed. I believe I should not have been charged for this review fee again just because it is in a different location.
much less be charged the price for 6 buildings when there is only 1 building they are reviewing. In addition, the city has said they are now too busy to review the site plan and are now outsourcing the site review. This is for all multifamily and commercial site plans. I was told this was going to be a flat fee of $1,500 starting October 1st. These factors are causing the cost of new construction to rise considerably. If this reason is because someone at the city is retiring or changing jobs, that is not our fault and we should not have to endure the cost. I would like to ask the council to put these costs and procedures on the next agenda at the next budget workshop. If this $1,500 site fee is going into effect October 1st, I would like to ask the council to table this until we can work together to find a better solution. In closing, I would also like to ask the council to carefully review the cost of the utility fees that are being proposed by the city. I have seen the list of price increases and most are jumping 50 to 100%. If we're moving toward a more economic friendly community, this is not the way to do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gailey. Any questions? All right, and Raquel? Yeah, Doug, go ahead.
Ryan, where are you building that property? Where's
The new one, the address is 917 2nd Street.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Raquel. I've been a contractor here for about 38 years. I'm also the president of the Builders Association. Tonight I'm here not for the Builders Association, just for myself, but what I want to do is request to be put on the agenda next week for the budget work session for the proposed new fees that I found out about yesterday. A lot of these fees, like plan reviews and where they're reviewing the plats and stuff like that, where some of them are $200, now they're $600. So there's triple right there. Some of them are doubling. Site development plan from $200 to $1,500. And also the multi-site development plans are now going to cost $3,000. But there's about 15 different fees and all that I'm looking at that are going up. And also, when you get to the, like the water tap charges, a 5/8 to 3/4 tap, which was $420, is $900 now. A 1-inch tap, which was $534, is $1,100. And as you go through, everything is doubling. And also on your sewer taps, just about everything you look at is doubling. And they're telling me you guys, y'all will have all these numbers next week in the work session. And I'd like to be there and kind of discuss this and basically just seeing where these numbers are coming from and, you know, how you're justifying. Back during the city council race, just about every candidate that ran mentioned economic development, trying to get new business into Stephenville and all. And my question is, this looks like this is just the opposite direction in which we're going. That doesn't seem like to me that's a positive step in welcoming new businesses, doubling and tripling fees. So anyway, next week I'd appreciate it if we could be put on the agenda, and I'd like to discuss this. So that's where we are. Thanks.
Any questions for Mr. Hale? Okay, well, we are having budget work sessions next week, beginning Monday at 5:30, and we'll proceed through the week until we're done. So those are open meetings, and you know, they're not in executive session. So the permitting and the costs associated that you brought up there is something that we have discussed, and I think we'll also be obviously discussing next week. So I appreciate your comments. Anybody from the council have a question or a comment?
they are gonna be allowed to be there and talk, right?
Right, right. And those are all open meetings.
Mayor, I know we can't take any action on the request. Will we be able to notify the two builders as the night that we will be covering that so that they don't endure 4 or 5 nights in a row of 4-hour meetings with us, just as a courtesy?
That'd be much appreciated.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, we have to be there.
Okay. Well, if nobody else is going to say anything, I'm going to, because I think us being transparent about what's going on is important. And Mr. Kaiser, I don't know if you want to speak about this or just amplify anything on this point, but we have talked about these fees, and the council has asked for a budget to be brought forward that does not increase those fees on 1 October. And it extends an interim period of 6 months to allow us to sort out what this is really supposed to look like. And so I think if there's a concern that the fees that you've seen are going to take effect 1 October, that's not our intent. And we've got an agenda item tonight to consider approving a contract for a 6-month interim period that we'll talk about that may shed some more light in that later in the meeting. So we'll talk about that when the time is appropriate. Okay, I think that's all the requests that I've got that aren't tied to an agenda item. Am I missing anybody that wanted to come and speak? Just in a general item? Okay. If not, then we'll move on to the Cross Timbers Fine Arts Council annual report and budget presentation, and ask Julie Crouch to come forward.
Good evening. On behalf of the Cross Timbers Fine Arts Council Board of Directors, we are truly grateful to the City of Stephenville and members of the council for your ongoing support of our organization and our programs. And at this time, I'd like our board members that are present to raise their hands. For over 34 years, we have continued to grow our mission in making the arts accessible to all and to present fine art events which inspire, educate, and entertain our citizens. Our programs are often the only opportunity many of our citizens have to experience the art firsthand. CTFAC was chartered in 1980 as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation and is funded through membership dues, fundraising activities, grants, corporate and private donations, as well as the city hotel motel tax. We sponsor or co-sponsor 15 to 20 art-related events throughout the year to promote cultural tourism. These events include ballet, concerts, theater productions, bi-monthly art exhibits, and art receptions. We also sponsor summer art and theater camps for children, as well as youth art exhibits. Our exhibits at the River North Gallery and Clark Field Regional Airport feature artists from our 8-county service area and beyond. These exhibits and receptions are open to the public and continue to draw visitors from across the region. Here are a few highlights from last year. Last October, we were proud to host the performance of Ballet Austin's Peter and the Wolf, free to over 1,200 area school children. This very special performance was presented in memory of our founder, Connie Birdsong, and made possible by area sponsors and a grant from the Texas Commission on the Arts. In December, we proudly presented our annual free classical concert featuring international, nationally acclaimed pianist Richard Dowling and Mexican tenor Rodrigo Garcia Royo through the Piotr Foundation. We also host our 3rd performance of the Cross Timbers Area Community Theater with 2 performances featuring over 30 cast members of all ages and directed by SISD theater teacher Micah Parsons. Our Paint the Town events offer our citizens a chance to create their own masterpieces with adult and children's classes every month. In keeping with our mission of creating arts experiences for all, we continue to work with Stephenville ISD music therapist Kathy Canal to offer our arts accessible clubhouse to Erath County Life Skills students. We are proud to say we are in the 3rd year of this program, which is made possible through funding from the Erath County United Way. We are a volunteer-driven organization with over 350 members. We are governed by a board of 9 volunteer directors who are elected to a 3-year term. A full-time paid director and assistant manage our growing business and financial affairs. I personally invite each of you to join the Cross Timbers Fine Arts Council and participate in our activities. It's an investment in your community and will leave a lasting cultural legacy for the inspiration, enjoyment, and education of all of our citizens.
Thank you. Any questions from the council or comments? Were you gonna say something? No? You're okay?
Strange enough.
You're just smiling, okay?
I appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much.
I really do, Judge. You do a good job.
Thank you very much.
Well, I will also add that it's been exciting to see the diversity that the Arts Council has brought this past year, and the different programs for young and old, and different interests of art, and that is so important to a community to be able to reach people in those special ways. So thank you for doing that, and to the board for your efforts as well. It's greatly appreciated, and just look for great things in the coming year. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would move we accept the annual report of the Cross Timbers Fine Arts Council as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Pendleton to accept the report. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, great. Motion carries, unanimous vote.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Okay, we'll move now to the Planning and Zoning Commission report, and at this time I will open a public hearing to consider the request to rezone from B1 Neighborhood Business District to B3 Central Business District, Lot 18, Block 63, City Edition, located at 252 East Tarleton Street, and ask Ms. Chu to begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this request at their meeting last month. It is a request to rezone this property, which is approximately a ½ acre in size, from the B1 Neighborhood Business District to the B3 Central Business District. The Planning and Zoning Commission, following their public hearing, does come forth with a favorable recommendation to rezone the property. At the request of the property owner, there is an ordinance on page 13 which would affect the zoning change. If you concur with their recommendation, if you have any questions regarding the staff report, I would be happy to answer those.
Okay, Mr. Warren.
That's a 16-foot street, Laurel?
Yes, sir. It actually narrows when it comes in the curve a little bit. Where it says floor right there, it does narrow a little bit.
Okay.
But that's the only right of way that's been there.
And the owner's gonna, that's where no dinner bell was on the south corner.
Yes, the dinner bell is on
What
the
he
south.
proposes to do is take down the building on the north side.
Actually, there are 2 buildings that have been tied together. There is the brick building that is on the north property line, and then there was another building that was built several years ago, and those buildings have actually been attached. So.
But that's coming down, and then multiple family housing is what they're going to put in there.
They said housing. It has not been determined the number. Of course, with the rock building that used to be the old Grants plants, the dinner bell, Scottsboro, they're proposing that it remain. So the parking associated with it, which is on adjacent to Laurel Street, would remain along with that building. And then it would have to be determined you know, what area is left for residential development.
There's no proposal to widen floor.
No, floral is, you know, it's got the two commercial buildings on it. There's a commercial building at 410. There's also two houses on the east side. There was another house on the east side of Floral that burned several years ago. It has been removed, and then there's 3 other residents on a Floral on the north end. And none of those buildings have been required to provide additional right-of-way.
I just don't understand why the PZ recommended approval of the zoning change. Because it's gonna put a lot of traffic on 15-foot street, it's gonna run it over the neighbor's yard.
There's existing parking that abuts the right-of-way for the commercial development also.
That's all.
Ms. Chukin, to clarify, I guess what Mr. Warren was asking, do we determine if there is multifamily, or I know the application just says residential use for the property, was that ever elaborated upon? What, we don't know what the intent is?
The applicant asked for the rezoning. It has not been determined.
Okay.
Other than what his application says, that he wants residential development.
But the reason, I'm sorry.
Okay, is that your only question?
Yes, it's
right now?
yes.
Okay. Sure.
But the rezoning would allow either single or multiple family dwelling if we approve this?
The B3 zoning would allow for single family, it could allow for a duplex, or it could allow for townhomes. And of course, the density of that would be based on the size of the property once it's platted.
Okay, but they haven't presented any formal plan yet?
No, they have not.
So they don't have anything in the works that?
We have not received any.
Okay. And then my only other question is, so I had looked up the deed, and maybe nothing, but they have Shannon Hammond listed as the owner of the property on this application.
His wife, Kimberly, is
His wife
also
is
in
actually, but she's the only name on the deed. And I didn't know if
She's
that
on the
made a
tax
difference.
roll.
But she's the only person listed as the deed owner. And so even if they're husband and wife, then that doesn't make any difference, or, because he states here he's the owner. I know there's community property and such, but is that any kind of a problem there, that the actual deed owner? is
I
not
believe
the
Mr.
owner?
Hammond's attorney is here to probably answer that question for you.
Because I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's hold that question, and we'll address that. Mr. Sveen?
If the zoning is approved, the change, what is the density that could be in there as far as numbers of homes and stuff? Other with setbacks and stuff, if you were to go to townhomes or duplexes, what's the kind of density?
Assuming the rock building remains,
Mm-hmm.
if you scale it off, a duplex or maybe 3 townhomes would probably be the most you could get on there, just looking at the area.
So 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, so you're looking at 14, 15 potential residents up and down that street then?
Let's see, there's 5 homes there already, so.
I was thinking about if you put a townhome, it could be a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom townhome, so as many as 2 to 3 people in a townhome times 3 would be 6 to 8. That's the density it could be potentially in there.
2 to 3 townhomes, you know, the minimum size of a townhome is 8, or a duplex, each side is 800 square feet.
Okay.
What's the length of that lot?
208 feet from Carlton to the north property line, and then it's 104 foot wide.
There's nothing mandating the preservation of the dinner bell, though. I mean, if we approve it and they should eventually decide to knock it down, there's nothing stopping that.
The zoning does not address
I mean, there's no agreement
historical.
tied to that historical, I mean, it doesn't have a historical marker, that's the dinner bell.
No,
It's not.
it is, this is a zoning issue, it does not affect, it would not affect that.
So if we
Zoning
approve
does
this-
not control that.
Okay, good. And do they have a question?
All right, Doug, did you have another question?
No, that's it.
All right.
I have one.
All right, go
Betty, I
ahead.
didn't understand you. The lot size is 208 by how big?
104.
104? Okay. And if this request is granted and the property is rezoned to downtown business district, is it correct that there's no parking requirements?
They're not requesting downtown district zoning, they're requesting central business district
Central
zoning.
business.
And the residents must, this is not part of the area that was originally served by parking meters, so they are required to meet the parking requirement for both a commercial or residential use.
Okay, so how would that be calculated on a lot that's 208 feet by 104 feet, and it's got a commercial building at the front and 2 or 3 residences at the back? Is that calculated on square footage?
The commercial building is calculated on the use of the building, and there's different configurations. That parking is specific to the use of the property. Residential uses are required to have 2 parking spaces per unit, be they single family, duplex, townhomes.
Okay.
But the two, I'm sorry.
In the interest of public safety, I find this to be unique in that, do we have any other streets that are just 15 feet wide in Stephenville? Maybe Buck Street back over here by Moff McNeil?
We may have maybe a half dozen throughout the town.
Collins
that are
is narrow.
narrow.
Okay. Thank you, Betty.
You're welcome.
One other question.
Okay.
When you say 2 parking spaces per unit, that would include the garage, though? Is one, you could have, so it'd be like a single car,
They are required to have a double drive.
a double drive
Yes, sir.
per unit?
Mayor,
Mr. Hogan.
missed you. I've heard from some citizens the last couple of days concerned about the grave school that sits on that property and the historical impact of this lot. Was the Planning and Zoning Committee aware of that structure being on this lot when they took this vote? Did that come up in the meeting and all?
There was discussion of the structures. I don't remember if it was specific to that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Betty, could you just talk to the process and where we're at? Because the change from B1 to B3 is because B1 does not include residential housing in it. So the request for B3 is obviously tied to that because
That's
they're.
what the applicant stated, that they wanted a residential use for the property.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that we don't know until the plat is submitted. What did you mean by that?
The owner indicated they would come back and replat the property.
Okay. So
wanted to
would you just
maintain
describe what that process will entail of the owner and of the P&Z and the council?
With
when they do
regard
that?
to the replatting?
Yes.
Okay. If the owner chooses to divide the property into two parcels, 2 lots, they keep the commercial building, the rock building, then they are required in a replat to show the rock building, its location on the property, and their required parking spaces, which front on Floral right now. Then they would have setback requirements for that building, and then there would be, the surveyor would draw the line. The city would review, it's actually an administrative replat. It could be an administrative replat because they would only be creating 2 lots. The property was actually platted back in 2000 into 1 lot. It was originally 2 lots, I believe it was 60 by 104 lot, and then the large lot, the rock building sets. The previous owners platted into 1, so they would come back and replat it into 2 to determine the size of the second lot based on what was left on the first lot.
Okay. And
any improvements that would be left on, any improvements that are to remain on either lot would be shown on the replat, and then if it meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, then it could be an administrative approval of the replat.
Okay. And
Okay, so if they put this in, they'd have to curb it together.
If they build new structures, yes.
So they'd further force the traffic on there. I mean, the guy coming from the north on the right-hand side couldn't move over because of the curve. So the traffic going the other way would have to get over on his neighbor's yard.
It is a narrow street. It
Okay,
always has
and
been.
it says here that they intend to remove the northernmost building and construct housing units. That's what it says.
Right, I mean,
So I think
they
it's
have-
pretty
they have
plain
not
what
determined the
intend to
number.
do.
Okay, so how formally has the owner stated that they intend to replat the property, or has that just been verbal?
It was just verbal.
Okay. And so what submittal would be required by the owner following this decision? If there is approval, what would their next step be as the owner of the property before they could construct?
I would assume they would then go with their architect to design whatever they're going to build on the property. The next thing would be a demolition permit for any structures they were going to remove, and then obviously the replat to be in conformance with both the construction requirements and the subdivision ordinance for
Okay.
new construction.
And what's the approval process for demolition? Who reviews that and who approves it?
The property owner can request demolition of the structure. They submit an application for a permit. We determine that they have disconnected all utilities, and then they are issued a permit to remove the structures.
Okay. So the purpose of the demolition permit is to just ensure there's public
It is a public
health and,
safety
health and
issue,
safety review of that. Okay. All right, any other questions from the council?
If the street's 15 feet wide and they have to come curb and gutter, all they're gonna do is get the existing 15-foot curb and gutter? Is that what Jerry was trying to say? Or are they gonna have to come back in and put in a city street, a residential street, which would be 25 feet or whatever?
No,
and
they
curb-
would, a residential street is 50-foot right of way.
50
but
foot right of way.
They would not be required to
Because-
dedicate additional right of way.
Because of what's there, they just have to do
What's already existing, you could not mesh it with the existing development that's there.
Okay.
But the curb and gutter would just be on the west side.
On the west side.
How about the south on the frontage? Doesn't it need?
They're not doing anything with the frontage. Unless they were doing something, I mean, if they removed all the structures, came back and did a new development, then they would curb and gutter the entire, the Tarleton and the Floral.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, at this time, I'll ask anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the measure to come forward and speak at this time. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephen McKethan. I'm an attorney at McKethan Espinoza PLLC, located at 299 South Columbia here in Stephenville. We represent the owners, Shannon and Kim Hammond. They've asked me to come tonight to address the council. I have somewhat of a presentation to present to you, but in the questions, it sounds like my use may be better just answering some of the concerns of the council members. Before I get into answering some of your questions, like I said, obviously you know that the Planning and Zoning Committee has, I believe, unanimously approved the recommendation to the council of the rezoning from the B1 to the B3. Really, to kind of tell you a little bit about the history of the property since since my clients have owned it. They purchased it in about 2010 through a somewhat of a foreclosure process. It's been listed for sale for over a year. They've looked to try to swap out the property with the city. I think they've actually spoken with some of city council members about possibly swapping out any type of historic value property for other property in this area. Actually, it's this red and white stripe over about where the Bosque River Trail extension would be. I think they've looked into that about swapping it. This is really about being able to use the property in any legal way, form, and fashion that any other landowner here in Stephenville would be able to legally use their property. It's really tonight, all it is about wanting to rezone it from the B1 to the B3, just because, as you can see, all of this red around it is the same as what they're requesting to be zoned at. So all up and down the east side of Floral is already B3, and so it's basically in conformity with what is already in the city plan. And discussing the city plan, which from council races and everything else in the newspapers, is that we're trying to beautify the downtown area, bring people out, the Bosque River Trail, and this is exactly what the property owners are trying to do. The current state of the building located on the north end of that lot is in disarray. The ceiling is falling in. The outside of it it's bad. It's dangerous. To use a legal term, I'd say it's an attractive nuisance for children to be around it, play around it. It doesn't serve much of a purpose business-wise. Historically, I understand that some people may think differently, but it is in bad shape. I can tell you that and I say he, the property owners, Shannon and Kim, have no desire at this point to demolish the Dinner Bell, the old stone building. They have actually put a substantial amount of funds into that building, remodeling the inside, making it usable. They hope to use it as a business office at this point. Mr. Hammond conferred with me yesterday and had said his desire of putting a new roof on that building. So I very seriously doubt he's going to demolish it, since he has a lot of money put into it. The plan right now would be to, if the rezoning is granted, would be to look at building some type of multi-residential unit, whether it be a townhome, a duplex, whatever is available. As you can see, and from the discussions that we've already had, there's not a whole lot of room, and he is well aware of that. He's just looking to be able to use the property and beautify the city and move forward with the city's plan of this area, bringing residential units downtown so people can walk through the Bosque River Trail. And he is very aware, as well, he and his wife are both very aware of the limitations of what potentially could be built on that property. And there's several ordinances that are well stated through the city about parking requirements and all kinds of setbacks, and he knows that it's going to be very limited. And the reason that I'm not standing before you tonight and having a plan is because of what he's going to do is because that is expensive. He has already engaged John Beverly, local architect. They have looked at things, but obviously before he starts paying for plans to be drawn up and looking into it, he wanted to obviously make sure that it can be rezoned for the purpose he wants. That being said, like I said, he doesn't have any kind of ill will, or he's not trying to do anything other than basically clean up the property that he owns and get it rezoned into the B3, whereas it's currently B1, and I believe the B1 district currently has 29 uses, permitted uses. B3 has 45 permitted uses and 13 conditional uses. As I mentioned, he's been trying to sell the property for over a year. He's just looking for something to actually make it worth his while and to go forward with being productive and being a productive citizen and beautifying the area. And with that, I would gladly answer any questions that the council may have. Yes, sir.
Would he consider dedicating the east 10 feet of that lot to the roadway?
We have obviously not just considered it. I mean, he has looked at it, obviously, like I said, he knows it's gonna be very limited about what can happen. Obviously, if he builds a bunch of townhomes, he wants to make it, or I say a bunch, it won't be very many as Ms. Chu has stated, but yeah, obviously, he wants those to be profitable, to sell, whatever, and so obviously he's gonna make those as marketable as possible. And if someone drives up to him and say, I can't get up and down the street, I'm not gonna buy it, and his developer or whatever says, hey, you need to do this would be in your best option, and we can still comply with all the ordinances, then I would think he'd be more than willing to do whatever needs to be done to make it marketable and to fit the plan based on what the city ordinances currently are.
Okay, other questions? Ms. Zachary?
If he did that, would that require the revisiting planning and zoning so that you get that commitment on?
I'm not 100% sure about that. Like I said, I mean, I know he'd have to come back forward with a plan of what he's going to be building, and it'd have to be approved. Like I said, tonight is really just about getting it rezoned from B1 to B3. And like I said, it's a step-by-step process where this is the first step of what can we even do with it. I mean, it may get rezoned, and he may not be able to fit any multi-residence units on there just based on what he thinks is affordable and what is based in his budget and everything else. So, like I said, this is only a rezoning request. It's not putting plans in front of the council. We haven't even got that far yet due to the money situation and the cost of that.
The problem is if we rezone, then he can do what he wants to. So that the time to see whether you do the additional 10-foot dedication or be before rezoning. Well, that's what it's swallowed in. And not my fault, he did that.
I wouldn't know. I don't necessarily know it's a bad investment, but the issue, like I said, is that there's. I mean, as you can see, this whole deal is it's red. That's all B3. Anybody can put up units all along there as long as it complies with the ordinance and that are already set out. It's not that big of an issue in our eyes. I know that we've spoken with Ryan, I believe Morton, here in the city. I've talked with him. It's not an issue. The road is not an issue in his eyes in any way. He got there and looked at it. That's my understanding.
I have my doubts about the city being able to say on the right-hand side, on that narrow street, if the city would be able to issue a permit to build, say, a quad or any other high-density building. I can't think of any time when I sat on the P&Z for 9 years and that's the worst call I know I've done. That's just my opinion. That's what I feel about it.
Sure.
Okay, other questions? Boyd.
I'm looking at a letter a citizen left here for us to read, and she just basically saying she would like to have some more time to see if the citizens wanted to get together and try to raise some money and try to have a historic district down there, and ask that the matter be tabled for a while. I might imagine your client is a businessman and wants to use his property for his own good, like everybody does. Is there any reason why he has to hurry through this, or do you have any idea about that?
Well, obviously, the more time is money.
Yeah.
I would say I haven't actually really discussed that with him, other than I know he has tried to move forward with Mr. Beverly with the plan. Like I said, they've discussed going forward. They haven't sat down and really done anything, but again, the lot has been listed for over a year. No one has ever shown interest in the property for the sales price that's been listed at, what it's been appraised for, and that in and of itself shows that there's not been a whole lot of interest until now. Whenever the possibility, and I want to stress the possibility of destruction, because again, he's not going to spend a bunch of money destroying property and building, because he does actually use this property in a very limited basis at this time. But it is, if the plan does not, if the property is not able to just be set up with a plan that makes sense to him in a business sense, there is no immediate cause for destruction of the property, of the north standing building. So, like I said, it's, yes, we'd like to move forward as soon as possible. And like I said, we've contacted the city council members, to my knowledge, my client has, and requested swapping lots if they thought that was the issue, about some kind of historical building, historical district. He's okay with that. Like I said, it's not, there's no ill will or malice, anything like that. It's basically a business decision of, I bought the property, I'm trying to sell it for over a year, and I'm trying to move it from a B1 that has a limited number of permitted uses to a B3 that more than doubles the amount of permitted uses. So.
Okay. Other questions? I think, Russ, you had one?
Mr. McKeithen, as an attorney, you'd probably be most qualified to answer this question for me. Hypothetically, if this rezoning is not granted, does Mr. Hammond still have the right to apply for a demolition permit and remove any buildings on that property that he so desires legally?
Absolutely. If hypothetically, if he would have already applied for a permit and it got approved, he would be doing it right now. It's a safety issue. I can guarantee you he's not. But he could demolition anything on the building. It's his right, as Ms. Chu had stated, as long as he's requested the permit and he's taken all the actions and steps necessary to make sure that it's not a public safety issue. He could be out there with a bulldozer as soon as he gets that permit.
That's what I thought. Do you know if Mr. Hammond has contacted the vacant lot owner directly to the west? There's no structure on the property. The one that's right next to it there that's also zone B1, do you know if he's contacted them? Because that would give this proposed project a lot more viability, having frontage on Tarleton Street, which is a normal sized street.
I do know that he, during our conversations the other day when we were out there on the property, he did mention he would love to own that frontage on Tarleton right next to what is the Dinner Bell. He thought that would open up a lot of issues, or solve a lot of issues and open up a lot of possibilities. To my knowledge, he has not had any luck with the property owner yet, but we did not get very detailed about his attempts to purchase that lot.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned discussing with some folks about swapping property. First I've heard about that. Is there particular property that we own that he's talked to us, tell anybody about?
And like I said, that is all secondhand knowledge. I have no idea.
Interesting question, does not. Is there any other property that
We don't have any properties available this time that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Like I said, I know that he had offered that or had thought about doing it, but obviously if there's nothing available. Like I said, the point is he's been trying to use it and go forward with the city's vision of beautifying downtown and the best he can, and also in a good business decision. His wife, and so, like I said, I have not been in contact with any city council members on his behalf or anybody else in the city regarding swapping lots.
Any other questions? Sherry?
That just does bring me back to my original question, which is, does it make any difference? Did he have like an affidavit stating that he was acting for his wife in the application?
Yeah.
Or is that covered by community property? Or?
It is covered by community property. They were married at the time that it was purchased. My understanding is that it was put in her name through the bank's decision, probably for credit reasons or whatever that may be.
No, people do that all the time.
They do it all the time, but they
It's
were
listed as
married.
the owner here.
Yes, they were married at the time of the purchase. The lender did not look solely to her individual separate property, so therefore it is community. And it's presumed community property, and therefore he owns about a 50% interest.
So this statement then is correct that Shannon Hammond is the owner of the
Yes, ma'am.
property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, other questions? Has anyone approached the owners about the property on the north end of the building on the north end? About
The old school building?
Right.
To my knowledge, no one had approached him.
Okay.
He,
So you have not, he has not talked to anyone about that property?
to my knowledge, no. Not, are you referring to
Well,
selling the property or?
Or being of interest of preserving it?
No.
I'm just asking, has there been a discussion between the owner and anybody that is interested in preserving that building? Have they talked?
Not to my knowledge. I know he has received several phone calls. We didn't go into detail about his phone calls. I do know that there's been postings and certain things on social media that have been directed toward him and his wife. But to my knowledge, I don't know whether or not he's actually sat down and had any kind of discussion about any kind of historical preservation. But I will say that, again, he was very willing to swap properties or whatever if for some reason.
Is he willing to sell that property?
Yeah, he has it listed for what it was appraised for, to my knowledge, and he has had it listed with a local realtor for over a year.
The schoolhouse?
The entire.
Okay, my
lot,
question is,
but certainly.
is he willing to sell the school?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. Like I said, we have not sat down and talked extensively about that.
Okay.
It's just been listed all at one property because.
All right,
it hasn't been put.
all right, thank you. And Ms. Chu, when was the planning and zoning decision on this? What was the date?
Third Wednesday in July, I believe it's the 16th, 17th, something like that.
17 July?
Yes.
So about 2.5 weeks ago? All right, okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in favor of the recommendation? Okay, anyone wishing to come and speak in opposition to the recommendation?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Hartman. My address is 3449 County Road 149 in Bluffdale. I'm the chairman of the Erath County Historical Commission. I must apologize. I come to you tonight with concerns, but I don't have a plan of action, which is not my style. I usually like to have a plan. However, I know there are people here who have a plan, and so I'm here to support them. What we have is a chance here to preserve not one but two historical properties. The rock structure that we all call the Dinner Bell is actually the John Beach House, and I have heard many times it's the oldest residence in Stephenville. I don't know if that's true. We don't have any documentation. To me, that's irrelevant. We know it's a historic building, whether it's the oldest or one of the oldest. It doesn't matter. Yes, there does seem to be plans not to destroy it, but like Zachary said, that doesn't seem to be written in stone. And so what if, you know, something's planned and all of a sudden the little rock building doesn't fit that plan? The other structure, the Cornelia Graves School, I became familiar with Cornelia Graves about 2 years ago when I helped dedicate a marker for her. And the marker is not at this location. It's at the school where she actually taught out on South College Farm Road. But this school was named for her in 1950 by the African American community because of their admiration and respect for her. So I came to know a lot about Cornelia Graves. Yes, I do understand it's in bad shape. This time that maybe we need, the Texas Historical Commission does have funding available sometimes for preservation, but it's just like in 2 weeks we just, you know, we really haven't had time to delve into any of that. As far as efforts to protect the, I don't know, Theus Edwards is here. She lives right across from the school. And I know the African American community has had plans for this building for a long time. Now, I'm assuming they approached the owner. I don't know. Theus, I hope you're going to maybe speak to that. But the truth is, Erath County has not, we have not honored our African-American heritage in very many places. And it's an important part of our heritage. If you study the history of Stephenville, you know African-Americans came with Stevens and McNeil, and they're a vital part of our community. And if there is some way to save this school, it seems like a fitting thing to do. And like I say, I'm here without a plan, but I do think there's a group that could come up with a plan if they just maybe had a little more time. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm Marla Bush. I live at 953 Northdale Avenue here in Stephenville. And I had written this eloquent little thing this afternoon, but I'm going to not go into it because I'm going to take issue with a couple of things that I just heard said by the attorney. First of all is, I've never met the Hammonds. Are they here? I mean, I don't know that. Are actually the owners of the property here at this? They're not here. Okay. I didn't know if I could ask that. One question is in the demolition, and I understand how the process to go through the city. The school would have to be filled with asbestos in the tile, ceilings, roofing, whatever. The windows would have to be lead paint. So I don't know if Ms. Betty could answer that. If someone comes forward and asks for demolition of an old building, y'all would sign off on it or not, but who would actually address the asbestos issue or the lead paint issue? Which I think, isn't that federal law? I'm not sure. But who addresses that?
The property owner would be required to do it legally, yes, ma'am, to do it demolition legally. And so,
Any commercial building that is scheduled for demolition must have the asbestos removed if there is any. There is an asbestos survey that is done, and then once the remediation has been completed, there's a certificate, and then they can proceed with the demolition.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be part of the process.
All right.
And then I understand that removal is extremely expensive and actually has to be packaged and even taken to a different dump site than even say our Stephenville dump is. But the other thing is that I have tried to buy the property. So I don't know, and the gentleman that spoke, I went over in the spring of 2013 with Martha Shelton, who works for Brooks Real Estate, old friend, but very certified realtors, and went into the buildings because I've been familiar with the buildings for years, and went in the buildings and, to look and see, actually called Betty, and you probably remember going back over there with me one time, where we talked about that I wanted the dinner bell and Thetis wanted the school, but we had to meet the needs of separation. And the little yellow building that is there in the middle that had been built probably over the last, 15 years or so, could come down, and then there was a cooler that sat on the back of the dinner bell that it would have to come off, and then with those two things gone, it would probably meet the needs of separation for then the two pieces to be divided, because we actually had, the black community wants the school. And I wanted the dinner bell just because I'm a historian and everyone had always told me it was the oldest one structure. But that was in the spring of 2013. In 2014, I made another verbal offer with Brooks Gilman Joshuron, who was a good friend and realtor, the same offer of $100,000. Yes, they were verbal, both of them, but they were to bona fide realtors who both told me no. Not going to fly. So I left it alone. So I don't know where the breakdown was with the listing agent and my realtors, but there was one. Because I never had any dialogue with anybody about this. So I don't know that you've been told that.
I have been told that.
Yes. I won't go into the long thing that I wrote. I will tell you that, one more minute, I won't go into it because I got 1 more minute to go anyway. And I'm a chatty girl, y'all all know that. I want to thank you for addressing the new council. I appreciate what y'all do. This has been a real pleasure. I really do ask you to table it, just table it. Give us some time. Oxford House has worked out perfectly because that new owner gave them a window of time just to get a group together. And it worked out. And that's all we're asking. Am I done? Awesome.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to come and speak in opposition to the?
Hello, my name is Thea Simmons. I'm a bit nervous.
Oh, you're okay, just relax and you'll be fine.
I'm gonna show you guys where my property, we own great properties around the community where they decided what they want to do. I own this piece of property as well. My mother-in-law is right here. I own this. Oh. There you go. I own this piece of property here. My mother-in-law is right here. I own this property right here, and then up there around the corner where it says floor, 553. The green property there that I own. First, I will start out by saying, Mr. Ham, I don't have any problem with him whatsoever. As an owner, I can understand what he's trying to do to make a better community in that area. But I do not like what's going to be happening. I do not like if it's duplexes or townhouses. To me and my husband and the family speaking for, it just doesn't look right in that neighborhood. I'm not saying it because it was history to my family. Yes, it is history to my family. As I go on, Cornelia Gray School and the Rock Building facing Tarleton Street sits on the property of rezoning. I own 3 properties that are surrounded by these 2 buildings, not to mention my mother-in-law who lives across the street. Floor Street is a very, right along here, which is Floor Street, is a very narrow street. So usually if 2 cars are coming through there, you're actually gonna either end up on Hammond property, or you might end up on my property as well in order for that one car to go through. So, but there is something that might be taken away from the neighborhood, and it is history to the community. Stephenville have a lot of history here. We are very proud to acknowledge them, but what about the African American history? There is only one, and that is the school with her name. Cornelia Gray still standing and stood for 3 businesses. This school, I thought I could do a museum for the African American family. There are history in this community that need to be known. When I started the research, I thought I couldn't do it, but with the supporters who have helped me, stood by me along the way. By rezoning this area, I honestly believe that you've taken my family, my friends, and the community, but also the African American history away. Give Cornelia Gray a chance to be acknowledged again. There's great potential in this school that can be done. I do understand that an owner can do what they want, but in this particular area is history, and she needs to be continued to be acknowledged. Not for the AA, but for the community of Stephenville.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to come and speak in opposition to the?
Holly Lamb, 911 West Vanderbilt. And I was not going to speak tonight. I hadn't planned on it, but if you can ask anybody I work with, I've never made it through a meeting without speaking up in my life, so here I am. I just am really, really, really disappointed that the city of Stephenville has not bought this piece of property. It seems to me that that would be no question. History is so important. I teach people who want to be teachers, and I'm not a history teacher, but I've really seen how important history is, and an understanding of it, and our kids having an understanding of it. And when I heard, the fact that the city of Stephenville has not bought this piece of property so that we can hold on to these historic treasures really, really, really disappoints me, and I think it disappoints a lot of people in this city. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
Taxi cab planner. I have a question for the city council with this map. That Laurel Street that you see, do you know why it is so narrow? On this map, it doesn't show Boston River where it actually is up against that area where the curve is. The expansion of road or change of road or plan with that property would be pretty immense. The Boston River area that goes down through there, agreed, it is very historic. The other question that I don't think anyone thought of is flood zone area. If the river rises up, we have zoning, but right now it is up against the river right along the river. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Obviously, I'm older than the building. I'm Betty Brant, I live in 950 Vanderbilt, and I spent a lot of my life at 252 Tarleton when we had Grant's Garden and the dollhouse at Grant's Garden. And you would not believe the people who came to town and commented on my building. Now, I had people who came from Dallas and Fort Worth and everything, and my building was always the most important thing. I love that building, and if you're gonna tear it down, don't do it till I die. You won't have to wait too long, but anyway. That school, listen, life happened, and it happened in Stephenville, and most of the people in Stephenville are completely unaware of what the situation was in that school. And we need to acknowledge it, and we need to honor the people who went through what they went through in that building. And it's just obvious that I think it's important to be saved. And you've got a lot of people, and one lady even with the money to do it. Which I didn't have, but I was sick when I heard that they did the rezoning. I didn't know there would rezoning. You never know unless you live next door if they're rezoning something. But anyway, I really implore you not to, because if it's gone, it's gone. You know, you can decide to think that business is important. Lord knows we got enough apartments in this town, don't we, right now? Anyway, if you decide to let it go, and that the man who owns it, I'm not saying anything against it, but he can change his day to my day tomorrow. I spoke to him, and he told me what he was going to do to the dinner bell. Well, I don't approve of what he was going to do to the dinner bell. We're going to go tear it down. But anyway, I felt he wasn't going to keep the feeling. But if you let them tear the school down, the school is gone.
And we just need to keep something in Stephenville that's history. It's part of our lives. It's what this Stephenville came from. And we need to accept the fact that it did and honor it. Okay? Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't plan this before I got here.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to come and speak in opposition to the? All right.
Yes, my name is Justin Landers. I live at 415 East Charlton Street. I also have a couple of other houses in that community. I grew up in this community, and the building that we're talking about, the community grade school, is very sentimental to a lot of us in that community. That community, that building itself actually drew a lot of people together in that community and from outside other places. Also, it was also used as other things back in the day and stuff like that. But just having that very simple idea of it, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to be torn down. Well, in my point of view is that if you're going to go to that point, if you're going to tear a community grade down, which is a historical marker to us in that community, and no offense to you, Mr. Brown, but you might as well tear down the old house too, because that house means as much as a community. To us who grew up in the community, we not only played or we used that school before it was strengthened, we used the house too. We would have fond memories of everything that's going on there. So I have some other concerns about it, sure, but those are my concerns basically about the whole deal. Table it, or however you can do it. Let someone read about it a little further. Let someone do a little bit more about it in the community. And that's where I stand. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sherry Knight. I live at 330 East McNeil. And I'm a director at Stephenville Museum. And I was most appreciative a few years ago when the council chose to support us in our efforts to move the Oxford House. I work in the archives at the museum, and that's what I just want to address to you, because it's one of the things that comes home to us every time we work in there. How many historical buildings in this community have been torn down? We have photographs of what was, and what's so sad, it's still many of them should be, and they're not. And you go to Dublin, they have 2, 3, 4 times as many historic buildings preserved there, dwellings and buildings, etc. And I'm not trying to compare us to another community other than to say that I think we are as good as or better than what we've been. I don't think previous councils have been that concerned about historical preservation. I beg you to be the council that's different. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Susan Gay Neblett Dorset. I live at 326 East Long in a 101-year-old home. The structure, the original structure there, has the date 1877. I'm not sure when and what, and when I was a little girl, and believe me, somehow I have become old and this happened. But when I was little, I actually knew the woman who lived in the house. Her name was Nancy. I wish that I knew more about it. I know a lot about her. She was a good woman. I don't know how she came, and I know a lot about the Graves School. I don't want them going, period. Bottom line. People come to Stephenville, and I actually drive around showing them where things used to be. No longer gone. Gone. I speak to a friend who's from Stephenville, lives in Granbury, and I say something about our old jail. Well, she said, well, we have our old jail. And the depot, well, we have our old depot. And the drive-in theater, well, we have our old drive-in theater. The high school where my mother and daddy are in the school photo out in front of the high school, they went there. That had boys entrance and girls entrance. Oh, it's gone. I mean, of course, they went there. The house in which I grew up, across the street, the old Victorian house that the independent school district pledged was going to become a home economics cottage. Mother and Daddy let them have it for a song. Took them about 3 weeks to start tearing it down. Some of you, many of you may have been in it. I don't know. I don't see you. No, not that one. But now, you know, now the high school's gone. And as far as asbestos remediation, it doesn't make any difference. This is my understanding in this firm. If you have an asbestos problem, remediation requires the same steps as if you are in the middle of a restoration. If you're going to tear it down, you have to follow the same rules as if you're going to get it out of there and remodel. No difference. So one minute, Chelsea. No, I don't want this gone. I'm tired of things being gone. I'm tired of it. And yes, you were absolutely right. Let this council be the one who said, no, we're not giving up anymore of who we are. No. And I remember a whole lot about that school too. And the positive memories that are associated with it. So thank you for letting me speak my mind. And yes, I got my dad blasted wireless electric meter off my home, and she liked 25th, a red letter day.
All right.
Yay!
Okay.
Do it.
All right.
All of you do it who can.
I'm Linda Brown, 586 North Clinton, the crazy lady of the brick streets. I had the pleasure, and it was a pleasure, to teach at Stephenville High School for 25 years. One of the joys and one of the things that sticks out in my mind is when I would talk about segregation, 2 different worlds. And it was in a book, and we could talk, and we could play all the games in the world. But when we decided to meet there one day, Bertie, you might have been in this bunch, after 5, to look at that school, the questions and the knowledge that came in their minds. Questions like, which grade was this in? This is all of them. This is a living, historical teaching moment that as a historian, I believe that we need to cherish and honor. All we're asking for is time to see what we can come up with to make everyone happy. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else at this time, I will close the public hearing. And move on to the discussion of the council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just real quick, I appreciate all the comments tonight. I always enjoy when we have a lot of public opinion on issues. First of all, you know, of course, I love the history aspect of this property and this area of town. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated. I drive this street, Floral, Virginia, every day, multiple days. I think there's some neat places of town. I really do. And a lot of that neatness comes from probably how small it is. To me, though, this is not really a history issue so much as a public safety. I'm a big supporter of personal and real property preservation of rights. Anytime the government wants to get involved and trying to infringe upon those rights, I have a problem. But at the same time, that's why we create planning and zoning commissions to protect the public safety. So to me, this is a public safety issue. If we're gonna put multifamily residents down that street, I mean, that's just gonna be a nightmare because trust me, I drive it, like I said, multiple times a day. You can't pass 2 cars down there. So if we're gonna add 15 more people down there driving, it's gonna create a real headache for the city. Plus, thankfully we have that guardrail we installed there a couple of years ago. If not, you'd be falling in the Bosque River. But it's something that I'd like to see put to better use. So it's a tough call, but like I said, I think this really brings a public safety concern to the city that has not been addressed in a while, so it's something to think about.
Okay. Did you want to, Mr. Singh?
Yes. Thetis and I have known each other for a long time. And I remember the day that she took me over there and showed me that piece of property and the history that was there. It was a pretty interesting day, and I'd love to see the history be preserved. The question right now to me, though, is the property owner has 29 possible uses now. Is that correct? Under the current zoning. So he has the ability to destroy the property now and do that, anyway. It sounds like what he's really interested in doing is getting his money back out of the building or getting his money out of the building. Sounds like there's some opportunities maybe to do that tonight. Mary, you mentioned earlier the July 17th date. I'm assuming that's the question you're coming from is there's a time frame of which requests have to be approved or disapproved. Is that right, Betty? Is there a time frame if we table this tonight to give some people opportunity to visit with the landowner to see if they could work out a deal? Is that going to cause a problem in his rights to a rezoning request? Or would he have to go back through the process again?
No, you have, the time, I'm assuming the mayor was talking about, you have time limitations on setting your public hearings and holding them. You have fulfilled both the commission and council your public hearing requirements. If you choose to table it, that is your option.
Okay, so
And just to clarify, because I asked the question, the reason I asked the question is I wanted for everyone to know the brevity of time that has elapsed from the P&Z to some of the questions that were left unanswered this evening. I feel are a direct result of the shortness of time. But also, and Betty, thank you for clarifying that point about us as a council fulfilling our obligations because the clock does start ticking once the P&Z makes a decision, and we've done that. We've met that gate, so to speak, tonight. Okay. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, it sounds like from the representative tonight that he's trying to do something with his property, and it sounds like there's some opportunity there. So I'd like to see for us to take a deep breath here and give them the opportunity to work some kind of a deal. See if they can work something out. That's what I'd like to see. I mean, that's all.
Mr. Wagner?
I don't know that tabling this would keep him from tearing it down. I think it probably wouldn't, but I would, I guess I'd like to have it tabled just to see if the community could have a little time to work this thing out, even if it was just a month. I was over there not too long ago looking at that place myself just because I didn't want to see it tore down, and there may be a lot of people that can, maybe some people can get together and do something with it. And I don't see that a month or so is going to hurt the owner in any way. So I guess I'll make a motion to table it, even though that won't stop him from doing anything. And maybe ask him that he just hold on for a little while.
Okay. And my parliamentary procedure man is moving forward, so that's a good sign. All right, that's right. Thank you, Randy.
Everything's all right so far.
All right, so we have a motion to table from Mr. Wagner and a second from Mr. McDaniel. And is that subject to debate or discussion? Okay, so I'll open up for discussion at this time.
Mayor.
Mr. McDaniel.
Like Brady said, the main problem with rezoning this property tonight is the 14-foot right-of-way on Floral Street. It is a public safety issue. If we were voting up or down on it tonight, I would vote it against it. But with 10 people speaking in favor of it not being rezoned, and half of those saying we need to come up with a plan, that's why I seconded Boyd's motion to table it. And I feel like there will probably be a unanimous vote in favor of it, if not very close. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, other discussion?
Yeah, I think that one of the things we've been talking about with economic development is that there is many components of that, one of which is tourism, and tourists need things to come visit, and I think that could possibly turn into, you know, an attraction where we're trying to revitalize the downtown, and that's within walking distance of downtown, of the downtown area. And so for that reason, I think giving them some time to come up with some way to preserve this is a good idea.
Okay. Mr. Speen.
You know, sometimes, well, that building's been sitting there vacant for a long time. That's why it was picked up at the price it was picked up. So there's been opportunity for things to happen, but sometimes emergency creates necessity. And so maybe tonight has brought up enough of that to where both the property owner and the city of Stephenville can benefit from some kind of a relationship.
Okay. Any other discussion? Or if not, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of tabling the action that's been presented to us from P&Z signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so the motion to table passes a unanimous vote. Okay, I held my comments until after the vote because there's a couple of things that I really want to stress to the council. And
Can't hear you.
That was the shortest speech you ever gave, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank the folks that came and spoke tonight, all of you. And I want to encourage you to not stop talking. Because as Mr. Savine said, sometimes crisis is the friend of necessity, whatever that quote is. And some of you in this room know how strongly I feel personally about both history and the African American community. And so I encourage you to find a solution. What I want to challenge the council to do is to participate. And if that means financially, so be it. If that means by facilitating, so be it. But we've got to get involved in this specific issue. So first I would ask that we do that. Second, opening the aperture up a little more. I've been recently involved with some discussions with Dr. Baker at Tarleton about doing a survey of historical property in Stephenville to catalog what is out there. Because as has been said tonight, we don't know. We need to do that. I don't think the city government should do that alone, and I think just as with this other piece, with private participation, it is a strong signal to the council that we want to do this together. And so I would encourage those that are working on that today to bring that forward formally to the council. which would include Dr. Baker in a class that he might host in the spring of 2015 to actually do that survey. The third thing, opening the aperture a little wider, is that for over 2 years now, I have asked for us as a community to consider a central business district plan to define what the heart of Stephenville needs to look like in the future. That allows us to ponder and consider the long-term use of this community area that Justin spoke about this evening. To also consider the properties along Long Street, to also consider the properties around Central Elementary, to also consider the properties around the square. If you look at Stephenville from Lillian Street to the Bosque River and from where Post and Feed Mill is to the park, that's the heart of our community. And we need to find ways to express who we are. And one of the ways to do that is through a central business development plan. It's not government dictating what needs to be done. It's us as a community sharing our piece of what we call home and bringing that to a vision for our community that can then over time develop. And so I would also encourage what has happened tonight is maybe to be a way for us as a council to consider that again. And I would offer that we can kind of crawl, walk, run with that. We don't have to have a bell and whistle plan to at least begin to lay out the patchwork, so to speak, of what our community is. And so I'm extremely excited about what has just happened in Stephenville in the last hour and a half, because I think this is a big deal. And I know that we've got some extreme budget challenges to talk about next week, and so please, I'm asking the community at large to really consider how they can financially participate in this, and see where we can move forward with this as well. So with that, we'll close the Planning and Zoning Commission portion of the meeting. And if y'all want to leave because you don't want to hear the rest of it, now's a good time.
Wait a
to do
minute, we
that.
have to sit here and leave too.
All right, yeah, see you, Casey.
You leaving, Casey? Oh, okay.
Pass it to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, ma'am.
I'd take it.
Ma'am, would you write your name in for me? Yeah, name in for me. And just our name too, so.
Right.
Whatever it comes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you for coming and bringing all your friends. They weren't there.
Under the bridge, y'all know what I'm talking about.
How are you leaving?
Yeah, just write your name and phone number down there, so maybe we can get started on something, you know.
Yeah, I'm losing them quicker than I'm keeping them.
Places for Jeff. There aren't any. Except in Fort Worth.
Is that hard look? Okay, there it
And
is.
this is
Good, thank you.
my friends could have children, daughters, sons with terrible headaches. And no place to go.
It's a real problem.
And that's where the money is, honey.
It is.
No,
There's some new medication on close headaches.
this brain flow.
Close headaches.
Traumatic brain injury.
Call me and I'll give you some information.
What I want to hear about this is that the blacks, the black kids wait to get out of here.
What is it? Thetis? What's the first name?
Thetis. T-I-S-S.
You know her?
She's one.
So it's good.
Oh, yeah.
That's why she's, one day we were out moving some stuff. She said, let me show you a little bit about stuff. So I walked around that building. I sat there for about 30 minutes or so. Once she gave me pictures,
Yeah.
you could tell the emotion. And it wouldn't surprise me if part of the issue why the streets so small because it was certainly we wouldn't spend money on that street. Because it was it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
I've seen it. He's a business owner. He has, he's in bad shape too, so I respect all that.
Got work cut out, no doubt about it.
No, he's not. He's a nice guy. And so maybe it's just an opportunity for some people to get together and make something happen. So I'm looking forward to it. And I would support Kathy helping see some council somehow.
No, we're,
I think it'd be a good thing.
Or can I safely go home? Then I better stay.
Might as well.
might as well.
Why not?
Lost control here.
You lost control.
Yeah, I did.
There you go.
There's more to that story. That's right.
Yeah, it's not the only time. Don't worry about it. It's happening bigger and better.
That's right.
Come on, Nick, let's go. Yeah, we need to talk.
That's all.
Come on, he has to go. This is professional duty.
Good luck, Nick.
All right, we got one.
That's
Joe. Trying to talk to somebody.
Casey should be coming along shortly.
Man, machine.
I'm sure he's in favor of what's next on the agenda.
I think he got that loud on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Don't you know that? That wasn't accidental.
I wanted to show he was a good old boy.
Yeah. I hear it really is.
Well, yeah, I think he really is.
I mean, he rode back and forth from his home to Washington for what, 30 years.
All in favor, vote aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm with the majority.
Thank you for coming
All
back.
right, let me just take this opportunity to introduce to y'all the Lone Star Conference Announcer of the Year, Councilmember Casey Hogan. So, way to go, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You told them when you in your acceptance speech about us, right?
Right.
They didn't even let me have an acceptance speech, Mayor.
Okay,
Wow.
all right.
They know you too well.
Unfortunately, it would have been very long.
Okay, well, of course. All right, so we're going to move on now to the next agenda item, which is number 5, standing council committees. And we've got before the council tonight a proposal to realign our committee structure. This is an item that we've talked about in work session, and it really was created out of a review of during our budget discussions about 3 or 4 months ago, when we recognized that as we were talking about the community services area, that we didn't have a committee that was chartered to provide oversight and advocacy policy issues related to the community services functions within our community. And so what we as a council have sought to do with this is to create a committee entitled the Community Services Committee that would provide oversight of library, senior citizen center, airport, cemetery, parks, recreation, and related matters, and make that a standing committee. We would also eliminate the environmental committee, which had over time grown into basically a committee that dealt with the refuse contract and recycling, and align that under Public Works, and also take what had been the Planning and Development Committee, had the street program under it, and realign that under Public Works as well. And so that's the committee realignment that is before the council to consider. And so I'll open it up for discussion or a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pendleton.
I think this is a great idea. I'm very excited about it. I think it's been long overdue, so appreciate your leadership on this issue, and would move to amend the committee names as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pendleton, seconded by Ms. Zachary to realign the city council standing committees as presented. Any discussion?
I think we've already discussed that. I think everybody knows what it's about, so.
Okay. All right.
I move to be adopted.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries, a unanimous vote. And then with that, with the committee realignment, there was the need to reassign the committee assignments, but only slightly, and that's to take the environmental committee and turn it into the membership of that to become the community services committee. And so that's reflected in on page 15, and then with the breadth of responsibility of the Public Works Committee, Mr. Nix had asked for an additional member to that committee, and so there's Mr. Pendleton has been realigned under that committee as well. So that's the two changes to the standing committees. So with that, I'll entertain any discussion or motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt the amendments to the standing committees as presented on page 15.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Hogan, seconded by Mr. Pendleton to approve the standing committee assignments as presented. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries a unanimous vote. Great. And all right, so then we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is contracts for land acquisition and appraisal services for the grant application for the Bosque River Trail 2. So, Mr. Kaiser.
All right, thank you. I am going to refer to, rather than just talk about individually each of the contracts, I'm going to talk about them all in general, if I may. Regarding the Bosque River Trail Phase 2, the extension of the Bosque River Trail, there is a history that's been outlined here, but the direct action that's being requested and asked has been discussed at committee level or at work session level, has been to retain. We are required to follow the federal guidelines regarding property acquisition for this piece of property. When we made our application, we knew that we did not own all the property along this particular extension, and we are given basically 2 years, approximately 2 years to acquire the property and then do the design and whatnot. We have made the initial contact, staff has made the initial contact with all the property owners along this piece of property. For all intents and purposes, my explanation would be that it's somewhat kind of come to a standstill as far as any kind of activity. And so therefore, we as staff are asking for your approval to hire some property acquisition services. HDR has done many trails as well as other tech stop type properties. They're very familiar with the federal guidelines. And then just so that everybody knows, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I answer this question now, but you are required to have a certified appraiser. The appraiser has to be certified with TxDOT, so you can't just use, and so basically we are not able to use a local appraiser because none of the local appraisers are certified to do this work for TxDOT projects. I did contact one of the local appraisers. They referred me to Mr. Campbell out of Brownwood, and so that is the reason why we've been recommended. I will tell you that we've also are using Mr. Campbell currently right now. TxDOT Aviation is using them on some of our airport runway extension projects. So we've kind of got some familiarity with this particular individual as well. So, but you're also required to have a TxDOT certified review appraisal. So you actually are going to have 2 appraisers. With all that said, I'm asking for the 3 contracts here, one with HDR to assist us in the property acquisition, complete the negotiations so that everybody does understand. Our first request has been that the property owners donate this property to us. If not, then we'll go into the next phases of the negotiations. You will still have 100% final decision when we come up to a final resolution on the property, whether we accept the donation to close on the property and or to purchase the property. So it will be coming back to you after they have done their work. So with that said, hire HDR for the real estate acquisition services, helping us negotiate and prepare legal paperwork. Mark Campbell to be the appraiser, initial appraiser, and Melissa Earhart with whatever, I'm sorry, her company name is, to assist us and do the review appraiser to continue to keep moving forward. The last thing that I do, and I think the mayor had asked me to mention this, we know we have a budget estimate prepared by TxDOT in our grant for the design, professional services, the design, construction estimates. All of that's been sort of, I'm going to say, kind of laid out. What we have not ever known is what our real estate acquisition costs are going to be. This should help us finalize and get to that point where we'll know exactly what this project's going to cost us. So this is going to just be another step in that process. I was hoping that we would not have to use these services, but again, for expediency to allow this to continue to and complete these transactions, we are asking for, staff's asking for your assistance to complete that. With that, I'll be glad to answer any other questions. The contracts are attached here below. I think there's different fees depending upon what those services are, all of which are fair for the services provided and based upon previous experiences and projects that we have had. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kaiser?
I had one, Mayor.
All right.
Mark, there on Blair Street, there's already a temporary office building for Balfour Beatty. Can you tell us what they have been contracted to do regarding the trail? I assume it's for the trail.
It is not for the trail. That piece of property is owned by the hospital, and that's actually the hospital's construction contractor. Not that this has anything to do with the trail, but I'll answer the question for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark? Okay, I do have one request for Mr. Horner to come forward and speak if you'd like to at this time.
Privilege to have, and but just like I would love to have a brand new Chevy truck. Sometimes it's just better to keep on fixing my old truck, and I feel like right now the city doesn't have a balanced budget, and I'd like to know if all departments are being met, bare minimum, or all needs being met with a college growing so fast. Roads, we have 200 miles of roads. What are we doing yearly for the upkeep of roads? All this, there's a lot of questions, and as my view, my personal view is, I'm not against having the, I'm not against having the Oscar River Trail. I'm against not having a balanced budget before we go ahead. So I'd like to see this table before we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Questions for Mark?
Is it questions or just comments?
Or comments?
Okay.
Either.
You know, Milton and I have known each other for a good while too. I think the answer to your question, I'll address as on the finance committee. We have millions of dollars that we could spend on projects in Stephenville, Texas. Streets, sewer, water, replacement equipment, employees. There's all kinds of things we could do differently. So, no, we have not, in my opinion, met all those needs. The problem, though, and I think this is probably the most difficult thing that the council has to deal with, is how do you raise the funds to do that? And one of the ways you do it is raise taxes, and I'm absolutely opposed to that if we cannot get away from it. The way to do it is to grow your economy, and it's my opinion that one of the ways to grow the economy is for tourism, downtown business district, a lot of those sorts of things. And so, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's one of the ways to accomplish what you're asking us to do. That's just my opinion. I'm just one of 8, 9 up here though, or 8, 9. There's 8 to 9.
Okay. Other comments? I'll entertain a motion. And I guess we'll just consider the 3 as a group.
Mayor.
I am sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I just have one question. Mark, collectively, do you have an estimate of what these 3 contracts are gonna cost us roughly? I mean, I know they listed what the services per item were, but did we?
We're, as we discussed in committee, $2,500 to $3,000 per piece of property is, from the appraisal perspective. And then a lot of the negotiation, some of them are going to be nothing, very, very minimal. And then there's actually a couple that are liable to be a little extensive. They're doing it based upon an hourly rate. And so they've been real hesitant about saying so, but let me just tell you, my experience has been, because we have done similar projects in some right-of-ways for easements, utility easements, and some others, that, and I'll tell you, I believe it's somewhat been an industry standard from whenever I've ever talked to folks, that you can just figure about $5,000 per parcel is kind of what I'd call a budgeted type piece, and we're talking about 5 pieces of property. Now, ultimately, will it take that? I don't believe so. I just don't, because of the introductory discussions that have already been made, some of the legal paperwork that's already been accomplished. However, I'm just giving you what some of the standards have been in the past. I believe we talked at the committee level, committee meeting level. I was telling you, I felt like it'd be $15,000 to $20,000 is kind of what we're committing to tonight. But let me just state as a general rule of thumb, you know, 25 would most likely be the high side, and we'll cut it off if we're going down the wrong path. You know, we'll stop the service, we'll stop the legal services and costs.
And that doesn't obligate us to buy the properties. This is all the preliminary work, correct?
This is all the legally required, federally legally required to acquire property. Right. Yes, ma'am. It's stuff that we have to do to acquire property. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mark or Doug, either one, y'all can answer this. This is money that, my understanding is that we approved you to do this several months ago at the mid-year budget, so this isn't new money we're talking about.
No, that's correct.
Okay, so you're bringing this to us tonight for what particular reason?
Contracts.
For the contracts.
For the contracts.
Execution of contracts.
Right. So we've already
budgeted the money.
We've already budgeted the money, so this isn't a new expense. But you're bringing this to the council tonight because you're about to award a contract, and so we're 3, right? Okay. So I just want to clarify that point.
Execution of the contracts. Yes.
Right. So I just want to clarify that point.
Yes.
You're not asking for money.
No.
Because we've already done that.
No, I have not asked for any
You're
money.
asking for contract authority, and that's what we're deciding.
Well, there is
this.
the potential that we'll be asking for some money at some point, depending on negotiations.
Right, okay. The other thing that I feel like it's important to bring out for the citizens, as we're talking about this is a grant match project, which basically if we don't TxDOT to spend the money in Stephenville, they're gonna spend it somewhere else in the state of Texas. And this is an opportunity for us to get those dollars spent here locally. It's what I affectionately call OPM, other people's money. So that's a good thing for our community. The other thing that I wanted to use this opportunity to make people aware of is that there are other things that are happening because of the trails development. This past week, AgriLife, through the Texas A&M system, submitted a grant for a watershed protection plan to be done for the North Bosque water basin. That grant was submitted to some of the same offices that approved our trail grant. In other words, we have a relationship now that is going to increase our likelihood of getting a grant for a watershed protection plan for the North Bosque River. And you may say, well, that's no big deal. Well, it is a huge deal. And why is that? Because if you talk to Dr. Marsh out at AgriLife, the end goal of the development of this plan is to get our Bosque River off of the EPA's impaired waterway list. And what a great day that will be for our community as we started this journey way back in the 90s and now have these dots beginning to connect that have a significance that are beyond just the trail. So that, there's economic development pieces to this. There's also regional influences that are coming up with this, and that's exciting. And so I just wanted to make everybody aware of that as well.
Mayor, would you entertain a motion?
Yes.
Mayor, I move that we approve the contract with Mark Campbell for appraisal services shown on page 17 of our agenda packet. We approve the contract with MLM Realty Advisors as shown on page 18 and 19 of our agenda, and approve the contract with HDR Engineering for real estate acquisition described in page 20 through 31 of our agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Hogan to approve the contracts as presented in our packet. Any discussion?
One question. Do we need to do one at a time?
No.
It's not.
You can do it either way.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries. Unanimous vote, approved as presented. All right, now we'll move to item 7, which is to consider approving a contract with Friesen Nichols for development review services. Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to Kelly Dillard. She is with Friesen Nichols, and I'm going to ask her to come and explain the program, the benefits to the developers as well as to the city, so it's not just a benefit to us here. Talk about, and then also some of the successes that they have in other communities, and feel free to ask her how many other communities that they represent doing this exact same service. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Dillard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser, Mayor and Council. It's good to be here with you tonight. I have really, really enjoyed the conversation that has gone on in this council, because everything that you talked about to this point really goes to the importance of development review services and how and why we do that. To give you a little background on me, my name is Kelly Dillard, and I'm the manager of stormwater services for Friesen Nichols. What that means is my background is hydraulics and hydrology. One of the things that I've done in the 24 years that I've been practicing is city engineer services for a lot of the communities in this area. So my department right now is doing development reviews similar to what you guys are talking about for the cities of Fort Worth, Burleson, Mansfield, Denton, and closest to home, we do Granbury's reviews. And so I have been Granbury's reviewer since 2008, I think, maybe 07. And the things that you guys are talking about and working through are the things that all of these communities are dealing with, which is, it's so important to have development in your community. And when you bring in development, it makes your community healthy, it brings in your economy, it makes you not have to worry as much about raising taxes to do the services that you're looking for. However, I heard tonight a deep, deep, deep concern for the character and quality of the development that happens in this community, what that looks like. You guys have regulations that talk about how your community needs to develop over time. And development review services is the way to be certain that the character and quality that you're getting in the development that you want to come in matches the vision that you have for your community as you go forward. And so one of the kind of hallmarks of the way that I like to work, and the thing that we've done in Granbury, is we've partnered very closely with their planning department and really kind of got in there and said, what's your view? What's your vision for what you want your community to look like? And then we've gotten with the development community as they've come in and brought in their plats, their engineering plans, their development plans, and those kind of things. And we've said, how can we help you move this through as quickly as possible so that you get a great return on your investment for doing development in this community, and the community, on the other hand, gets a really great development. So a couple of the other things that I want to talk to you about for that, because right now you have a good planning and development review process going on. One of the reasons that I do this on a contract basis for a lot of communities is they've said, we need to have these services, we need to have them happen in a timely fashion. And we would love to have experts in the field. And so one of the things that having a consultant come to you with is, I bring with me and behind me 500 experts in all of the different fields of engineering and planning and architecture that go into a development. And so I routinely for Granbury go up and get the water and sewer guys to talk about, what's the right type of tap, what may you want or not want in the placement of a sewer lift station, those kind of things. So really all of the fields of engineering come with this one contract, more than you could ever get in one single person. In addition to that, very frequently a contract like this would be less than you would pay for the annual salary of a professional that you have that would be on staff to do this. And then you're also not having to bear the cost of the benefits that come, the financial responsibility of having someone on staff. So as we talk about this and kind of work through it and think about it, what I want you to think about is sort of where the fiduciary responsibility is for the community, and how might contracting this out be a benefit to your development community and getting a really good review, and then being a benefit to the town and getting a really good development. A couple of other things that I wanted to talk about. I got involved about a year ago with the city of Fort Worth and their development review process, and their development community was up in arms because they were holding them up. Things couldn't happen quickly. They didn't agree with any of the reviews. And what we found out was they really weren't keeping their development community up to speed on where they were in the review, what to expect, what it was going to look like, no consistency with the review. That's another one of the things that we bring with us. So there are many different ways to do a contract like this one. My contract with Granbury works like this. On one Friday every month, they have the developers send in all of their plats and all of their plans that they would like to be reviewed. So I have from that Friday until the following Thursday to get my review done. And then I go to Granbury and sit in DRC, their design review, development review committee, and we meet with the developers and talk to them about, here's what we saw, here's what we need. Then that crowd leaves and they have until the following Friday to address comments. And if they address those comments, then they continue on a posted schedule that allows them to get through P&Z and council in, I think, a 2-month, I believe it's a 60-day window from the first time that you engage as a developer, you engage the city until you get all the way through. One of the things that is really important about that is to be the kind of developer and engineer who has their game together and they come in knowing how they want to work. So a lot of times it will kind of slow the process down if it's somebody who hadn't really completed their engineering. But my review team really is all about getting with those developers and saying, have you considered this? Have you thought about this? I think this is good engineering practice. So those are kind of the things that we work through. On an occasional instance, I will come to their council meetings and address council like this. That typically only happens when there's been a fairly contentious, and there are contentious developments on a regular basis. So I'd say probably 3 or 4 times a year, I'll come down, or one of my review staff will come down and talk to council about sort of what we saw from an engineering planning perspective. So we do full service reviews of all of the things that are encompassed in development planning. And we have structured the contract that we sent to Mr. Kaiser to look like that, to be sort of an hourly on-call. When you need us, we're here. If you want to call us on the telephone, that's great, and we'll talk to you there. If you need us to come down, we can come down as well. One of the things that I wanted to say a little bit about the fee structure that I heard a couple of people talk about was that what's going on there is it takes some time to do a review. And so typically, even if you have someone on staff, they make a rate, and it's going to take them X number of hours to do a review for you. And so we've said the typical review takes X number of hours. And I think that may be the fee schedule that I heard being discussed here. But really what's going on there is that from having done these so much, we know about how much time it takes. And so the guarantee that we make when we get onto an agreement like that is we'll do those reviews at that fee regardless of how much time it takes us. Now that's not the contract that we brought for you today because you guys are looking to kind of just get started and we don't exactly know what you need or want. We've said let's get onto an hourly contract so we can kind of figure out what's going on. And from there we will look at are the fees that they've put together and suggested appropriate? Do they need to be higher? Do they need to be lower? And it will give us time to get with the development community and make sure that they're on board with what's going on.
Thank you. Any questions for Martha?
I don't have any questions right now, but let me just follow up for just a little bit to follow up as she's talking about fees, and I believe the mayor mentioned earlier, it was discussed during our work session that we would not be implementing the fees for this during this interim period, and we would, in essence, be absorbing that cost if there's some cost differences here between our normal fee, our fee structure now, and in essence going to that, that will be a part of not only some of the discussions we've talked about within our development processes, as well as the hiring and all these other things. All of that will be worked out over this, hopefully during this interim period. And so first, let me just say that the fees, while I recognize, as I told y'all during our work session, we give you the recommendations of some of the things we see going on, just like our water and sewer rates, but we don't implement our water and sewer rates till the winter months when we implement that. So the point is to get that information out there to begin that discussion during this interim period. Two, let me follow up by saying too, that I believe we had one of the developers mention that it's because we had somebody retire or is about to retire. This has been going on, and this discussion has been going on by us and by this department for quite some time. More importantly, let me tell you that I think as we discussed during this last work session, I gave you a copy of 2 specific pages from a task force committee that met directly with the developers, no city involved, and one of the things that they specifically had requested was in their top 4 or 5 that said something that could be done immediately was help expedite the plan review process. I need everybody to understand that we have 3 or 4 different eyes look at it, we spread it out, and they're experienced in their respective fields. And what this will help us do is hopefully help solidify that into one point of contact, one set of eyes that ultimately, yes, shares a bunch of these things, but has the expertise in all of these areas to help solidify this into one communication point, as well as the most important part is help, time is money, and help expedite this process for the developers. So we're trying to accomplish a couple things here, and the timing of such just happens to be, for me, is that the timing could not be any better because we do have some changes going on. Now is the time to go ahead and let's introduce this, let's get on an interim basis, let's get this thing going. It will allow staff, we just will not have the staff available, and trust me, the time delays that some of our developers will have are about to significantly increase, and this will help us continue to expedite that during this interim period as we work through this. We want to continue to involve the development community, and we'll continue to do so, and I believe that this effort here, the success that it's had in other communities, and I can tell you they work in Trophy Club, Burleson, many others. I'm telling you the references have been very positive, and it's a positive for the development community. I'm not trying to sit here and say, I mean, we'll do what we can. We want to, but we're trying to respond to some of them, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that's really why we're bringing this up. It's been on our table and drawing board for quite some time. So with that, thank you for being here, and again, we're both available to answer any other questions about what's going on. So.
Okay, council, any questions for Ms. Dillard? Jerry.
I didn't understand. The developer can submit plans or ask for review on each Friday of the month? Or?
One in Granbury, it's one Friday a month, and it really has to do with your P&Z and council rotation schedule. Because
so
what
Mr. Gailey here had a project
right.
that he wanted you to look at, he'd have to wait until that particular Friday.
What we have said in the contract that we have here is that when we receive something, we've committed to you that within 7 calendar days, which is a week, that we will have a review turned around and have comments turned around and back to the developer.
Yeah.
What we've said also in this contract is if it's a very large, let's say that a 200 lot subdivision comes in, probably ain't gonna happen anytime soon, but if it did, we would say to you in writing, it looks like it's gonna take us more than 10 calendar days, which means it's gonna be more than a week for us to look at it, and at that time, we would give you an estimate at the time. But the intent here is to put a collar on how much time the developer is gonna be sitting in limbo while they turn something in and they're waiting to hear back from the city. One of the things that we've had really good luck with the city of Fort Worth, and this also is in this contract, is that we maintain a little spreadsheet of what all's come in, when it came in, how long it took to review it, and when we sent it back, and then when they come in. So we have goals to have a 5-day turnaround, 5 business days, and we have goals to have not more than 2 re-reviews on a review that comes in. And so the focus there is we're looking to get this stuff in, we're looking to do a comprehensive, thorough review quickly, and to not drag it out, not re-review it over and over and over again, but our motivation is to help the developers get into and out of the system and come out with a product that's great for the community. So that's really the focus of the way that we do it.
Jerry, let me kind of just chime in a bit because I'm sensing there might be, we still have staff here. They're going to be here to help the developers come in, still work with them. We're going to still be working with them. What she's really referring to here in my mind is that they're going to make one specific day available to visit with the developers face to face, site to site, and we're going to have a consistent, regular basis of being able to do maybe some more complicated issues, if you want to call it that. But we're going to have day-to-day still contact. We're going to continue to still be able to submit things by mail. I mean, we've talked about that already. We're going to expedite. All this whole process is designed to help expedite the developers' processes, make it smoother and easier, and get their questions answered so that they can begin making money and developing for Stephenville.
Mark, you referred to the interim period several times. Did you define that as 6 months?
I believe we put in here, I believe it's 6 months, and I'll tell you that their reference point has been, I believe he's got $25,000, does that sound right? So after their hourly basis gets to about $25,000, we'll be revisiting again. You know, the timing of this also, I'm gonna sit here and just tell you, as I've told you, you know, it's gonna take us 90 days and or up to hire someone within that department. So for me, I'm trying to kind of merge the two a little bit to hopefully, if whoever we end up hiring, we get all this together, then we can develop a system that's best for everybody. And so this is just allowing that. But the time-wise, 6 months and or not to exceed $25,000 without coming back and discussing it with you is what.
So,
Is that right,
along those
Kelly?
lines, we talked about kind of the volume that
Right.
Stephenville has been experiencing and about how much time it takes for each review, and we feel like $25,000 is gonna be more than plenty. You may not even use it all in a 6-month period.
Any other questions?
You described this last week, Mark, as revenue neutral as far as budget goes?
Now,
Or was that something else?
no, I'm going to continue to use the word, it is designed to be revenue neutral.
Okay.
However, during this interim period, because we're going to be assuming the hourly rate, and they're saying that it normally costs $600 for an application, I'm going to use one of them, $600, and we're currently charging $200. In essence, we're at risk, I'm going to call it at risk, it's not revenue neutral, potentially for $400. That's based upon their experience through all these other communities about how much the time costs and that development cost is there.
Which we fill in with
But
the
which right
salary
now,
from the department that's unused.
right now, it's going to be a part of our burden at this point until we get through this interim period, is what I'm telling you. But the design of this contract and this program is designed to be revenue neutral, as she even mentioned herself, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Are you still doing the reviews for Fort Worth?
I am.
Well, that's good news. I'm a reference for you then. We went through the process in a project in Fort Worth, and I was amazed at the speed and how well it worked.
Thank you, I'm thrilled to hear that. I need to say to
Trick
you
question.
that it's a shared contract. Friesen Nichols has half and half Associates has the other half, so.
Well,
Full
it's hopeful.
disclosure.
I can't tell you who did it. I didn't even know that they were doing it that way, but we had a project that went real well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Are you flirting with her, Doug?
No, because my wife may be watching.
Sure, you had a question?
Yes, when we fill the vacant position we have, will we still need this contract? Or is this just an interim contract while we're filling positions here?
As I explained to you, it is my intent that this will be a permanent program as we move forward. This is going to allow us to work through the other pieces of help answer the questions, work with the developers, and do some of the transition pieces that we're talking about. But I'm telling you that I anticipate, again, as I mentioned, this is something that we've been looking at for quite some time, and it's very successful in other communities, and it's something that hopefully will help the developer area feel and recognize that we're very conscientious about their world. We want to be customer friendly. We're trying to help expedite every way possible, and that's all these efforts are designed for.
But we had,
So-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So this is a new thing we're starting to, did we do this before? Who did this before?
We are currently doing, but we're doing with in-house personnel, as I mentioned, and we've got three different eyes looking at it, and at a minimum, and that's what's going to help provide those efficiencies as well as just some of the other things we've talked about. So we do some plan reviews, but we don't do it to the level that we're referring to here, and that's where the expediency and all these other things created. I don't want to call it a new program because we're doing it. This is going to be a new way of doing it that hopefully becomes more developer friendly.
And is this, you do a lot of big cities and stuff, but you're also familiar with small towns because obviously there's a lot of difference in character and
Quality of life, absolutely. I'm trying to think of some other communities of your size. Trophy Club has 9,000 residents, so they're a relatively small community. I do their work. Burleson's a little bit larger, but also is kind of a outside of the big residential or the big urban area type thing.
Mark, would this eliminate a problem like, a year ago, I guess it was, one of our builders here was remodeling and was in the middle of it and had to send in some more information to an engineering outfit in Fort Worth, and it held him up for a couple, 3 weeks on his remodeling job. I mean,
I hope these kind of things help that, and I'm not familiar with anything that you're referring to. I'm sorry that I'm not aware of what you're referring to, but the design and purpose is for us to, I'll tell you, the only thing we won't be sending them is residential projects, but we're talking about sending them, all the commercial, basically all the commercial projects, and all civil design. So in other words, there might be a residential development that they'll be looking at all the reviews. But to answer the question, let me say that it is my goal and hope that we don't have those kind of issues when we have this type of review. Yes, sir. And at the same time, I can't speak to what you're referring to. I can just. But anyway, so, okay. So,
okay, now
the goal is to not have that. Yes, sir.
The system is now that the contractor has his engineer draw up plans on a commercial building, like all this, for instance.
And I'll let her,
Yes,
so,
that's right.
Like a chain store comes in or something like that, and a guy,
Yes, sir.
a local contractor, he has his engineer draw up all his plans.
Right.
Okay, those are submitted to you.
Yes. And then as soon as I get them, that clock starts ticking. In 7 days, we have comments back. One of the things that works well for us is a lot of times, especially with like a big box or some, a national chain, their engineer or the developer himself him or herself will come in and say, we'd like to meet with you ahead of time so that we're comfortable with what your requirements are in town. And we really encourage that because when we've had a face-to-face, then typically they know more about what needs to happen, and it makes the process go more smoothly. But most of my coordination is with the developer's engineer. In Granbury, it's a little bit different. The developers are much more closely tied to the project. And so we do, in that community, I work a lot with the developers themselves. But they rely heavily on their surveyors and their engineers to fill the technical requirements. And that's who's reading the subdivision ordinance and making sure that they're meeting all of the criteria of the community is the surveyor and the engineer.
Any other questions?
Mayor, would it be proper to see if the only builder in the building might have a question for the young lady?
Especially because I've chased him down and said, I want you to come back so you can hear what I have to say.
Is that proper to see if?
Sure, do you got any questions, or?
Well, as a builder and investor, time is money. For 7 days, I don't have a problem with the fees that keep coming up, that the city keeps making these changes. First, we've had, 2 years ago, we implemented the building review fee, and they'll do a single family up to a quadplex at no charge, but the minute you want to put 2 of those buildings on there, now we've got to do several of the building review fees. Building review fees implemented. And then now we're having outsourcing the site, and you're also doing the drainage as well. But the site plan is going to be, somebody had told me that it was around $1,500 flat fee. Is that correct? It's going to be imposed back on the developer, is that?
I can't remember what was in that fee schedule, and I don't want to tell you without looking at it. But one of the things I do want to say is that the site plan review and the drainage review, water, sewer, paving, all of that happens in one fee, in the one-time look at it for each plat or set of plans. So it's not like you have a fee when you turn in your water and sewer, and then another one to put your grading in, and then another one with your site plan, and another one with your plat.
Here we haven't had any of those fees with that's been associated with the site, just the permit fees. That I know of, in the building, nothing with the site.
probably not gonna be a wholesale addition. It'll be encompassing some of the things that you've already been paying.
That's right. That's design.
Okay. Further questions?
And if we approve this contract tonight, would you be available if requested to come either Monday or Tuesday night for our work session to answer questions from other builders?
I sure will. I may have another council meeting on the 12th, which is next Tuesday, but next Monday I'm free.
Okay, thank you.
And Mark, we'd have the ability to absorb those costs ourselves if we had wanted to fund it that way. Instead of doing an interim, we could decide to do away with the fees altogether and just absorb the cost, right? As a
Yes, I
city,
mean,
we could.
you know, this right here is, and I'm asking for your permission to get them on board so that we don't have any delays and continue to work with contractors and developers.
Well, I want to take us
So-
back as a council to where we were. We are not increasing fees with this decision, right?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
It's a correct statement.
Because we wanted time to understand what the fees should be.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Okay.
So,
We've got 6
you know,
months to figure
when they
that
come in
out.
and file out their application, they're gonna be
Right.
paying the same fees, filling out the same applications. We're not
Okay.
gonna, I'm not gonna treat them any differently because of this contract, or we're not intending to at this point, other
Okay.
than, I'm trying to help, we are trying to help get their questions answered and get them under
Okay, well,
construction.
I'd like to recommend that, then, based on what Mr. McDaniel just said, that there be a time, and maybe y'all can sort this out tonight between the two of you, and I know Mr. Hale is gone, but I think that there should be a meeting and a presentation by Ms. Dillard or Friesen Nichols to the Builders Association to just have a forum with
As I've
them.
mentioned to you on many occasions, we have always been available at the city. And
Okay,
as
I
our
wanna
agent,
re- I
as
wanna
our
formally
agent,
request that
as our
that
agent,
happen.
we'll
Okay.
be glad to work with them if they make a request to the city.
No,
So-
no, that's not what I said. I said that we need to facilitate the meeting to occur, because we are considering the contract, and so I think it's incumbent upon us to say, hey, let's get together and talk about this. That's all I'm suggesting, okay? So,
We've extended that hand and we'll be glad to do so
Okay.
again and
Okay.
continue to do so.
oh, great. I did have a couple of real quick questions. What's the relationship between Friesen Nichols and Bureau Veritas?
We don't presently work with Bureau Veritas.
Okay, so you're not, who's gonna do residential reviews? Do you do residential reviews?
I don't think we don't do them the way Bureau Veritas does.
No,
We're not looking at code.
We're going to still continue to do it, staff.
So staff is gonna do
Yeah.
all residential reviews?
As we currently do right now. I don't believe, unless it's a very large, well, I'm not aware of any. I think we've done all the residentials, hadn't we? Yeah,
Okay,
Single family?
single family, right.
okay.
Was that your question? Was it about the single family?
Well, my question was a relationship between Friesen Nichols and Bureau Veritas, and it
Oh, I'm
sounds
sorry.
like there won't be any overlap, or who does what?
No, there
It
should
sounds-
not be.
So,
I don't
so it
envision
sounds
that
like
being a
there ought to be
problem.
maybe some competition between the two to see who can do better. And speaking of that, I would really like to hear from Friesen Nichols a proposal of how you're gonna address quality of review. Let's say you provide 10 comments and the engineer developer disagrees with 8 of them. We ought to know about that and ought to create a catalog of how we doing in redos. Do you address that in any way?
So the thing that I talked about on goals of re-reviews
Mhm.
are really kind of the best way to hit that, because there's kind of a natural tension between the reviewer who's looking to make sure that the community standards are followed, and the developer that's wanting to say, those are probably not things I want to worry about.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'll get some of that pushback that says, these are ridiculous. But when you have a body of work, and I'd be happy to provide you the tables that we do for the other communities that say about how long it takes us to do each review and how many re-reviews we have.
Okay.
And what that has done for us in Fort Worth is then when somebody comes in and says, we don't agree with any of these, you're holding us up, we can say, but we had these 50 that we did that worked well, and
Right.
they were of a similar character of development to yours. So yes, maybe we have these comments, but we have these others that we have a body of information
Okay,
And
so
that's really kind
it
of.
sounds like you're doing that. I guess what I would like to see, Mark, as you're working with Freeze and Nichols, is us to formalize that within the contract submittals that you're providing that give us a monthly update of what those are.
Request
we-
a monthly report from them
Right,
to give
right,
us
that
something.
says,
Okay.
you know, what was our re-review rate and what was our on-time rate? And to be able to monitor those to see how you're doing.
I think that sounds great.
The last question I had was, what building code do you operate under? And how do you deal with the fact that we live in a community where we have a 2006 code and then we have a university that is held to a different code?
2012. I guess I would say I have a little bit of an unfair advantage because the developers were telling me outside that the city works to 06. But that has actually been another one of our issues in the city of Fort Worth is that they have had different dates when they do revisions. My answer to you on that is if the city of Stephenville has the 2006 building code as their policy, we review to that. And when you are ready to adopt 2012, we'll review to that and we'll help you go to that when and if you're ready to. But we will not review to something that's in 2012 if your requirements are 2006.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we work that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
One of the comments I've heard from builders in town is, you know, Stephenville isn't Fort Worth. It isn't Houston or Stephenville. And I appreciate what you said earlier about getting to know the culture, not culture, is the word you use, the values or what are the phrases, quality of life comments, because we are different. We're not Fort Worth.
Absolutely.
And so I would want to, and the builders and those who are investing money look at Stephenville that way. It's one of the reasons you're here.
The mayor touched on that a little bit when he was talking about having a downtown plan and being so intentional about what you want your community to be, both now and in the short term and in the long term. And to be certain that the guidelines that you have are the ones that are going to get you to that vision, each one little development at a time.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Dillard. Appreciate your time.
Mayor, I would move approval of the contract with Freeze and Nichols for development review as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Pendleton to approve the contract with Freeze and Nichols for development review services as presented. Any discussion?
Well, Mayor, I thought I heard you ask for a slight revision of the to include monthly reports.
Yeah.
That.
What?
To include the monthly reports, is that a big deal
I
to?
believe that's already in the contract.
Okay,
On the very first page, it says maintain a log of all development reviews to include the date of receipt, the date of review completion, and labor hours expended. That log will also include how many times they came back in. So
Okay.
that's already a part of the contract.
okay, so reporting that will be just an easy thing then, because you're collecting it. Okay, all right. Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries, unanimous vote, as presented.
Mayor, I know it's getting late, but on the consent agenda, I'd like to pull off item D for discussion, please.
Okay, so we'll pull off item D, and I'll consider a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item D.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pendleton, seconded by Ms. Zachary to approve consent agenda with the exception of item D. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And Mr. McDaniel, you want to discuss item D?
Yes, Mayor, on page 71 through 73, it talks about the shade structure for Optimus J.C. Park. And it states that the city will pay half of the $45,664, and the Optimus Club will be paying the other 50% of it. and that page all sounded fine. And then I got to page 72 to find out that the cost of the shade structure itself is less than $16,000. And what they're selling us with that is drawings, signed and sealed engineering drawings, calculations, and specifications for $607, and then installation of something that costs less than $16,000. The installation cost is $27,443, which is $11,000 more than the drawings and the shade structure itself. And in addition to that, then they add on $1,819 for freight. So we've got a $16,400 shade structure that, according to page 72, they want us to pay $45,664 to. And I would just like somebody to step up and explain to me. I know we're just paying half of it and the Optimist Club is paying half of it, but surely we can get a better deal. Was this something that was bid out and this was the lowest bid? Or has this been the way that it's been handled with other shade structures that we have purchased for parks? I just need more information before I'm willing to support that, Mayor.
Okay. So, you got background on this, Mark?
Yes, all the other shade structures have been done under the same similar processes, procedures, and I believe even the same contractor. We are buying this on buy board, but the process has been that we do review other proposals from other companies. The cost to do this, and so with all that said, let me just say that, yes, it's bid, but in this particular case, we had the same contractor that installed the other shade structure at that location and has been designing this entire area along with the City of Stephenville and the Optimist Club. That process says then that buy board, who bids this product, this service, this program, and that's the reason why we're able to contract directly with them, because they're saying buy board, and under our cooperative purchasing agreement, they've said that this is the best deal for this service from this company. I hope that answers that question. Third, let me just tell you that I can tell you I understand your concern about the installation costs, and while I do not know the specifics to this particular piece, let me just tell you that what I do know is that their experiences at installing these other locations and these other facilities, especially this particular location, happens to be on a landfill, and the structural foundation that allows this to be to maintain its integrity requires a little bit more extensive work, and I can tell you that we do not dig past about 2 or 3 feet. City staff doesn't, because we do not know what we're getting into. And this company, who has done all the others, has that experience and has been very successful at getting everything done appropriately. Last, let me just tell you that, and this is my editorial to follow up, there was a question about, and I'll tell you, by the Optimist Club, about putting a steel cover over the top of it. It is extensively more than quite a bit more than $45,000, and I can tell you that the recommendation by everybody has been, this is a good deal, this is what we want. They've been wanting this shade cover a lot longer than we have, they being the participants and the Optimist Club. This has been one of their top priorities, and I believe they promoted it at their last auction event as knowing that this was one of their projects for this year. So hopefully I've answered the questions the best I can. I recognize your concern, but all we can do is rely on the professionals to do this and do this in the safe and proper manner for playground equipment and safety of our kids in the community.
Is the city's part, the $22,832 in the current budget?
Yes, it is, but, well, let me say, we've got it in grant matching. I do, what I'm going to say, I think we're going to have enough just within our operations to do this because we've known about this, again, for quite some time, and I was hoping and thought we took care of it at mid-year, but if we don't, let me just say that the monies are there. That's part of the reason why grant matching are here. When we have, as the mayor alluded to earlier, when we have an opportunity to get $45,000 improvements for $20,000, that's why we set that money aside for these purposes. So I say yes.
These are shade structures that measure 56 feet by 56 feet according to the drawing on page 73.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's been a great deal. We've had about 3 or 4 different designs. One was one large structure that would have had a very high point to it. Another was to divide this up into 2 different structures, and the ultimate design came to come up to this, both from the structural integrity, again, some of the height issues, mostly from the wind, I believe. And then I'll just tell you, ultimately, this was one of the cheaper remedies to get this thing done, too.
So this can actually tear and age by wind and sun?
Say that again?
The shade structure can tear and age, become weak from the sun and the weather?
Mostly, again, because of the expansion here, we were going to have to go and they were going to have to build a significant structure, a peak, to allow the water to run off. And so that's why they went down to multiple areas, just because of the pure size of the structure there, and to do everything properly. So, you know, that particular bid was, I believe, was around $55,000 to do that. And so that was another reason why we said, nah, we want to go one of these other routes. So.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Mayor, I would move that this item be tabled and referred to the proper committee to see if that's where we really need to spend that much money for a shade structure that's only 56 by 56 feet. If I could get a second.
A second. What committee would you recommend?
That would be community services. It has to do with park and recreation.
Okay.
Unless you'd like it in finance.
No. That's why I make sure that's clear.
Okay.
Okay, so there's motion to table item D and refer to committee by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Warren. Any discussion?
Mark, is there any type of timelines here or commitments we've already made, or, I mean, by tabling this, would this?
We don't have to do it. It hadn't had one for a long time.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's try that again. All those in favor of tabling the action, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed?
No.
May have to have a roll call, Mayor.
All right, that, was that a call for a roll call?
I believe so, because
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, we need to have a roll call because I
Okay.
can tell either matter.
Okay, all right, so, place 1,
No.
place 2,
Yes.
place 3,
No.
place 4,
Yes.
place 5,
No.
place 7,
Yes.
place 8.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries 4-3 to table. We'll move to the last item, which is, well, next to last. Comments by the city administrator?
Thank you. I'd like to just point out that one of the contracts we approved during the consent agenda is our household hazardous waste. The date of that household hazardous waste is Saturday, August the 16th. It'll be in the morning hours, and you do need to come by and pick up a voucher to be able to participate in that program. But I'll tell you, I happened to be at Sherwin-Williams this weekend, and they had it posted up, and it is amazing how many people ask the question. And she said, we get the question all the time, how do I dispose of paints, old chemicals from my garage. And don't pour them out on the ground. Please go and take them on August the 16th to the Stephenville City Municipal Service Center for our annual Household Hazardous Waste Program. But I do ask that you please get a voucher. It just lets us make sure we have the proper equipment and the size to be able to take all of the respective pieces of waste. The next thing I would like to just point out, and hopefully all of y'all will recall, but on August the 18th from 11 to 1, Dr. DeTavio has invited the council to participate in a tour of the facilities. So please mark that onto your calendars. I believe we'll take a tour of the facilities, and I believe he offered to have lunch up there at the facility. So
Yep.
please mark your calendar for August the 18th.
Right.
That should be the
President
Monday.
Tavi and I talked about that, and what the intentions are, as Mark was saying, we're going to tour the new facilities that have been constructed, and we're going to have lunch where he's going to give us, the council, kind of a view of what some of their future building plans are for the campus, and maybe talk a little bit about their growth plan and some of those other things. So it should be an informative, plan on probably a couple of hours total.
So it's now 11 to 1, not
11 to 1.
not 2 to 4.
Right,
originally.
because we're gonna
I'm not
have
sure
a
where
working
2 to 4
lunch.
came. 11 to 1.
11 will be the tour, and then we'll have a working lunch with the presentation.
Correct?
So,
Yes.
great opportunity, and really appreciate President DeTavio being willing to do that for us. So,
Okay, the next item I would like to just update you on, we had a discussion during the month of July with the council regarding the airport runway extension project, talking a little bit about, and if you'll recall, the request by TxDOT has been this project. We've been on the drawing board for quite some time, and our project is has been scheduled for funding, but we've had a couple of issues to address with the FAA and TxDOT Aviation. We have now come to the point where basically everybody's on board, ready to get going again. And so they just had asked us, kind of the political environment, do we still want it? I believe was my question to the council, and y'all gave me that nod. So I made that contact. They have initiated the environmental review now on the properties, and I want just to let you know that that ball is rolling, and it's going to be rolling very quickly, I believe. We do not have any contracts to address or deal with at this point. I don't anticipate that probably for a good 6 months, but I just want to kind of give you an update that our discussion was healthy, and that project is now moving forward again. And so just wanted to give you an update there. The other thing is we've had for quite some time the discussion about, and I believe it was mentioned this evening, regarding our building codes. We were audited by the Insurance Standards Office, I believe is what they're referred to. We call them ISO, back last November. And one of the comments from that was that we need to review and consider updating our codes from the 2006 to the 2012. We have, for the newer council members, let me just tell you that in April we had mailed out the 2012 codes to all the respective. We have trades and board commissions for your information: electrical board, mechanical board, plumbing board, and I'm sorry what all they are, but we mailed out a copy of the 2012 and said that we would be meeting sometime soon. I'm letting you know that we are scheduling those meetings within the next 30 to 60 days. And specifically, basically, ISO is just asking, what are we going to do? And so we're going to be scheduling those with the trades and commissions. I will make sure that you are made aware of every time that those boards and commissions are going to be meeting, so that y'all can participate. We will be involving the building and the developers throughout this entire process, and ultimately they are the ones that will be making the recommendation from them to you about what those codes should be as we move forward, and any other discussion. But I want you to be aware we're initiating those meetings within the next short period, only because ISO has basically kind of putting us on a notice to say, tell me what to do, or we're just going to do what they do.
And Mark, I want to just clarify for the council and for those that may be listening and for the minutes, that the question is not, do we adopt 2012? The question is, what code do we adopt? Because the answer might be 2006, it might be 2009, it might be 2012, it might be 2003. But I mean,
It'll be
we would-
2014, because they
Right.
just came out with a new one, so.
Well, but the state of
all of that
Texas.
discussion
state of-
is
right,
the
but-
building trades.
But the state of Texas hasn't even reviewed 2014 yet.
That's
My,
correct.
my point is, you only used 2006 and 2012 in your comments, and I just wanted to clarify for everyone that 2006, 2009, and 2012 are all considerations for what the answer will be.
Yes, sir.
Right.
You know,
Does
That's the reason why we
council
involved
have
the-
the ultimate decision making on that?
Right, the boards will, well, I'll let Mark answer that question.
Let's say that again, I'm sorry?
Does the council have a say on which code is adopted?
The building and trade boards, much like P&Z, the building and trades will be bringing those recommendations, and then it will be your final determination as to what you adopt.
Is that one of the boards that hadn't met in 20 years?
No, sir.
Okay, well, Seth,
I'm not aware of a committee that hasn't met in 20 years. So,
I don't know, Seth Moore said he was on one that hadn't met in 20 years.
I can't speak to that. I'm sorry. I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
Well, what does the ISO, give us a little explanation about how they fit into the picture?
Let me, I've got I believe y'all had asked for what I'm going to call a white paper. I believe is what Councilman Hogan referred to it as one time as a.
One
is that
page, one
a
pager.
one pager. He's trying to say a
Big
one
fan.
pager. But I do have a packet that we're going to be, share with everybody, all of the letters, the complete history of this discussion, where it came from, why it's being discussed, and what everybody's role and responsibility is in this. And so I'll be glad to share those letters with you, but ultimately, they are hired. ISO is an independent company that is hired by the by the insurance companies, and the insurance companies hire them to set a rating, an insurance rating on our community. And that insurance rating is used by those companies and is required by the Texas Department of Licensing and Insurance, or whatever they're referred to, insurance and licensing or something like that. It is required that they have this rating to establish their rates. And ISO is the one that makes the recommendation and ultimately is what is adopted as our rate in Stephenville, Texas, for all of our structural components of insurance. Now, that's my simplest answer, but let me send you the information that I have. It does a nice job, I believe, of trying to hopefully help explain and answer that, and rather than you hearing it from me, because I don't want to defend anybody about what they're doing. I'm just telling you what the processes are, and I'll be glad to share those direct letters with you and what their comments to us have been. The last time we were reviewed, what I believe was in 2008, and I can tell you that I am aware that all of the similar sized communities, Mineral Wells, Weatherford, Granbury, I believe Comanche, Brownwood, no, I'm not sure about Brownwood, they have all had the exact same experience that we've had within the last 12 months. So let me tell you that we're not just being picked upon. I'm telling you what has occurred. It's a factual piece of a factual statement that I'm trying to make here. So let me share it with you. And I realize that you weren't a part of those discussions. These discussions have all been prior to you being on the council, and so I hear you. Let me send you, I got a nice little packet of just informational pieces, and I'll try to summarize it in a staff report for some discussion later. But I did want to let you know that we're going to be, the boards and commissions have already been engaged. They're aware of it, and what I'm telling you is we're about to schedule those meetings, and that's what I really wanted you to be aware of so that you can just be aware. We'll be working with them and continue to work this process through. No decisions have been made. It's working the process that's established. Is that okay, Mr. Warren, or is there something else you needed? Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Then the last, yes, sir, and then the last thing, I want to take a moment to, we have a member of our family that is fighting cancer and is on his deathbed right this minute. And I'm referring to Mickey Ballou. He is an active firefighter. And to not only he and his family, but to that entire department, I'm sorry for what all of y'all are having to go through. But I want you to know, on behalf of this community, I want that family to know on behalf of this community that our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and the department as they're dealing with something very tragic. He was diagnosed with cancer less than a month ago, maybe a month ago, and it's very tragic. And if you are not aware, I wanted you to be aware. And it is firefighter, I believe, sergeant, or is he a lieutenant? Lieutenant Mickey Ballou. So if you'll please keep them. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any other questions about anything else. Congratulations, Mr. Hogan, on being named broadcast for the year.
Thank you, Mark. All right, with that, Mr. Hogan, do you got any comments?
I do not, Mayor. Thank
Okay. Mr. Wagner?
No, sir.
Mr. Sveen?
No, sir.
Again, Middleton?
Thursday night, 6 o'clock, City Hall, east of town, not this one. Come out and join Mr. Hogan and I as co-host of the Handsome Hunks of Erath County. Last year, raising $13,000 for Meals on Wheels. We hope to far exceed that amount. I know Hood County this year raised $85,000 for Lou's Place, so I think our community is a lot superior to that community. So I anticipate $100,000 to raise this year, all because of Mr. Hogan.
The mayor was a proud participant last year.
That's right.
It's a good event for a good cause.
Right.
Near tonight, so.
What's the date?
It's this Thursday at 6
City
o'clock.
Hall, city limits.
Thursday evening.
This Thursday.
All right, and Mr. Nix is in Alaska on a boat. And so, Ms. Zachary.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask that something be placed on the agenda for next week that we discuss our bid procedures and possibly extending certain bid deadlines if we decide to revamp our process. Just basically to discuss our bid procedures. I'd like to put on the agenda next week.
Discuss the bidding procedures, purchasing procedures?
Yes, bidding and purchasing procedures, please.
Okay. Mr. Warren. You good? Okay. I just want to, I guess, two comments. I know we've been here a while. Three things, I guess. I want to thank Mr. Finney, our new cameraman. Thanks for being here. And also want to, mention that on the 15th of this month, we've got a retirement reception for Miss Chu from 4 to 6. Invite everybody to come out to that. And it's having left a career myself recently. I know that this evening is somewhat surreal for you. And I just want to thank you, Betty, for all you've done for this community and for your service and commitment. And it's going to be a good time for us to celebrate with you on the 15th, and just want to encourage everybody to come out for that. So, and likewise, what Mark said about Lieutenant Ballou. God's in the business of miracles, and And we just need to lift that family up in prayer as they look to both support Mickey and then themselves for courage in this time, and just for as a community to rally around the co-workers and the family alike. So, Mickey, we're with you. And helps us put things in perspective. Okay, with that, I will call us into executive session in compliance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Law, consultation with attorney.
Is there a best time?
It just kind of depends on what I get going on.
Hey, y'all might be hooks next year. Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out.
8:30, should be done.
Y'all got to dance though.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, thank you.
I'm in seeing you. Good to see you.
So we'll come back in here in a minute.
We're gonna come back in here?
After executive session.
So you're changing your mind. I'm doing it.
See you later. Oh, yeah. I don't think you're supposed to stay here for this.
Well, I'll see you later. Hope to see you around soon. See y'all later. Good night.
Were you responsible for that creative cropping in the Empire Pigeon?
That what? That what?
The creative cropping in the Empire Pigeon? Yeah. I thought that was good. Yeah. Oh.
I was not responsible for that.
I know you were.